This is the zoning board of review for the town of Tiverton on April 29th. The matter is here on a special meeting, and it's been previously continued from December 6th, January 10th, February 22nd, March 6th, March 20th, I'm sorry, and tonight, April 29th. This is part 5 of our hearing. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce who's up here. I'm going to start from my left. George Alzabak is a regular voting member. Michael Marcello is our legal counsel. My name is Lisa Gescheit, and I'm the chairperson, trying to keep order. To my right is David Collins, who's our vice chair. To his right is Jen Kavanaugh. Jay Jackson. Our stenographer tonight is Barbara Motijo. Oh, how dare you switch on me. My apologies, Susan. And Tara Ferrer is our note taker for the zoning board. Again, I'm going to repeat the warnings that I've issued in the past. I know this is a very contentious hearing, and no one wants to be here on a beautiful night like this from 6 to 10, but I really appreciate everyone being respectful of one another. Please don't disrupt the meeting. Don't express your opinions if you're in the peanut gallery. Under our rules, all of the questions, our members of the board have to get my permission to ask a question, and you will have an opportunity to ask whatever question you want when we've done with a particular witness. So it's a fully open and transparent proceeding. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand, and we will get started right now. Mr. Stolzman.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you. Again, for the record, I'm Rob Stolzman at Adler, Pollock & Shee, and we represent the applicant. We were last before you on March 20, 2024, at which time we had concluded with our expert Eric Simpson. He had testified also in February at the February hearing, and there were some additional materials submitted and cross-examination and public questions of Ms. Guglielmo and Mr. Simpson. So with that, having finished that phase of our case in chief, we would propose to move on tonight with our traffic expert, Mr. John Shevlin from PAR Engineering.
Okay, before you do that, there's one thing I wanted to mention to all the parties. I was reviewing the transcript, and I think we're getting kind of loosey-goosey with the evidence, and we're not marking them, and when I'm rereading the transcript, I don't know what document anybody's referring to. So I don't know if any other board members have had the same problem, but because you've revised a number of plans, I would like to have your exhibits submitted at the end of the hearing, so we don't have to go through all of the things that we've gotten that have been replaced by other documents. That's for everybody.
That sounds great, thank you. I was going to address that this evening with one of the witnesses, but with the ones that have already appeared, I think that's excellent. Thank you.
Well, I know you've all agreed to the qualifications of all the experts, but some documents have been marked. Some of, we've been a little loose about what's being introduced and what isn't being introduced. And so the record is clear. You could probably confer among yourselves as to what exhibits are in full, and we can resolve any questions at the very end of the proceeding. Because I realize this is an evolving process.
Yes, that's fine. We're happy to confer and submit a stipulated set of exhibits.
That's perfect.
I
Is that
doubt
agreeable with you, Mr. DeVito? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away.
Okay, with that, then I'll bring up Mr. John Shevlin from PAR Engineering. We also have just posted, this is the site plan that we have been using for the last 2 hearings, and that it's already been submitted, just for Mr. Shevlin's reference. This shows the entry in on Main Road, the exit out to the north on Main Road, and the access from Souza Road. There's nothing different from this plan than what was presented at the last 2 hearings But we thought we'd just use this as a site plan for reference if there's no objection to that. And John, we've been going on long enough. He's, oh,
I'm going to
yeah.
swear him in first.
Yes, yeah.
Would you like to swear him in, please?
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. Now, John, pull the microphone close to your mouth. He's a soft-spoken gentleman. I told him he has to speak
I'm
up.
going to speak loud tonight.
And you have to speak slowly because I don't understand a lot of the terms you used.
I know. I hear
You're
you.
going to have to explain.
All right.
Traffic studies for dummies.
I will note, we've gone on long enough that Mr. Shevlin's got a new right knee since we started this process. So,
Welcome to your right.
so we have him and his new knee with us tonight.
I'm glad you didn't hear me in February because it would have been a long night for me.
It'll be a long night anyway.
John, we did already qualify our witnesses and agree that everybody was an expert, but could you just very quickly go through your basic background, where you are now, how long you've been doing what you're doing, and for the board's knowledge?
Absolutely. So, good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. For the record, as mentioned, my name is John Shevlin.
Sabina, thank you. Sorry, bring it closer.
Just close. Better than that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so for the record, my name is John Shevlin. I've been employed by Park Corporation in Lincoln, Rhode Island for over 34 years. I've been performing transportation and traffic-related work on my entire career on a wide range of different types of projects and developments. My educational background includes receiving my Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I've also taken traffic-related classes at Georgia Tech University and at the University of Rhode Island, and numerous workshops and seminars over the years for traffic-related items and such. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island. I've testified in front of planning boards, zoning boards, and city and town councils, and I think pretty much every town, every community in Rhode Island over the years. So I'm that old. So
Thank you, John. John, did you perform traffic analysis for this project for the applicant?
yes, we have.
And you've submitted, we've submitted on your behalf, or we've submitted, you've prepared at our request, and we've submitted with respect to this application a report with our November submission, and then a supplemental letter with additional traffic counts on this matter, have we not?
That is correct.
Okay. Rather than me going back and forth asking you too many questions, could you just summarize, go through your report and summarize your analysis, how you did that analysis, and roughly your conclusions there, and then I'll interrupt with a question here and there.
Yep.
To keep this moving.
So as Mr. Stoltzman stated, we're engaged to do the traffic engineering services for this proposed development. Being involved in this project now for over 3 years, I'm very familiar with the property that this site is going to be the subject of the applicant's proposal. Very familiar with the surrounding roadways through various site visits throughout the years. And I'm also very familiar with the applicant's proposed development on the subject project and property, I should say. For our assessment, we have performed and provided several documents in support of this development. The documents provided to the zoning board include the traffic impact analysis report, as mentioned. I sure can. I knew that was coming.
Document provided to the board.
The documents provided to the board include a traffic impact analysis report. And also, we provided, lastly, on March 8th, 2024, a letter comparing the proposed use that is being proposed by the Seasons Development versus other by right alternative uses on the site. So I'll start by focusing my testimony on the March 8th, 2024 letter. And I think one thing that I just want to state is that, we know that this site is going to be developed in some shape or form, and whatever the development is going to be, it will generate traffic from this site. So we just want to make that point. Our letter performed an analysis to understand the impact to the surrounding roadways from traffic that could be generated when comparing the proposed Seasons versus traffic that could be from another permitted by use development that is allowed in this site. We included on our letter additional data that compared our proposed development with a by right use, such as a 5,000 square foot market, which could be something like an Aldi's or somewhere along that size, that could easily be accommodated on this site. Within our updated November 2023 report that the board has, We included another use that could occur on the site, such as a larger liquor store, just for comparison purposes. So we use the manual called the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. This is a manual that goes ahead and looks at developments and throughout the country, different types of land uses, and it generates typical average trip generations for those particular uses. And that's how you generate the amount of traffic that could be generated from a particular use. Our proposed use that we're looking at, the convenience store, gas station, with the drive-through coffee shop. The convenience store, gas station, and the drive-through coffee shop has a significant amount more of what we consider to be pass-by trips for this type of development compared to some of the other uses that could be permitted by use. I'll take a moment just to explain a little bit about...
Sorry, John, when you say by use, you mean by right?
By right, I'm sorry, by
Thank
right.
you.
Sorry about that. I'd like to take a moment just to explain a little bit what pass-by trips mean. So these are trips that are already in the traffic stream that are traveling to a point, to their destination, and on their way, going to their destination, it's a stop that they make. Whereas a new trip is somewhere that somebody who is going to a site is coming from another direction, making a special trip to get to that site. It's not in the traffic stream. I guess I'll bring it down a little bit as far as, give it a better clarification. I compare it to a new trip is somebody who's cutting their lawn, for example, and they run out of gas. They go to their gas can, there's no gas in there. They get in their car, they take their gas can, go to a gas station, fill that up, and then go back, finish the lawn. That's a new trip that's generated. Whereas a pass-by trip is a trip that somebody who's coming home from work or going to work, they look down, they realize that they're low on gas or they're running out of gas. They stop at the next gas station on their way, and they don't go out of their way to a specific. All right. And they go ahead, they don't go out of their way to the gas station.
Sorry?
Someone in the back doesn't.
Is it possible to ask the gentleman a question?
At the end.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry, you were asking if you can ask a question of the witness?
Is that all right?
Not yet, but you can.
Okay. Understood, thank you.
Do me a favor, just turn the mic a little bit like that, because you could move it, yeah, right there, perfect. Answer me, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll continue. The number of new trips for a larger convenience market will be higher compared to our use. That's the new trips. For example, in the AM peak hour, our proposed use will generate approximately 34 new trips into the roadway. Whereas if you use land use code 851 from the Institute of Transportation Generation Manual, a 5,000 square foot convenience store market would generate approximately 100 trips during that same time. Whereas in the PM peak hour, the proposed seasons is estimated to generate 41 new trips, while the 5,000 square foot convenience market could generate up to 81 new trips. If we look at the larger liquor store, which we feel on the site could accommodate up to 11,000 square foot development, just initially looking at that, this would generate approximately 90 new trips in the afternoon peak hour. Obviously, in the morning peak hour, the liquor store would not generate much traffic because they're typically not open that early in the morning, people using that. So that just gives you a little bit of background. So the point that I'm trying to make is that with this site, it's going to be developed. Traffic will go ahead and increase whether it is a permitted by right use, such as the market or a liquor store, or whether it's the applicant's proposed season development with the proposed special uses. Our proposed uses on the site typically has less cars generated to and from the site, and certainly more cars that are already in the traffic stream. So the amount of new traffic on the roadway,
Are you reading from something?
a little bit, I'm looking down for.
Okay, just go a little slower.
All right,
Slow down.
All right. So the traffic stream, the new traffic on the roadway will be less. So I'll give an overview in regards to the traffic study report that we performed and stated in November 2023 that has been submitted to the board. So PART prepared this traffic impact study for the proposed 3,600 square foot Seasons Corner Market. That also includes a 400 square foot.
Excuse me, sir.
Can he give her a copy of these papers when it's done?
No, he's using some notes. He's not just
Oh,
reading
reading.
it.
I was-
So,
I thought he
but
was
John,
reading.
speak into the microphone and slow down.
You'll have something to correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll rely on the transcript, which is fine, but you are going quickly.
All right. It's a bad problem of mine.
We're going to be
so.
here till 10, so. feel
That's
free to
right.
slow
Yeah,
down.
yeah, don't worry about time.
All right. So PAR prepared the traffic impact study for the proposed 3,600 square foot Seasons Corner Market that also includes the 400 square foot coffee shop with a drive-through lane and gasoline filling stations consisting of 8 vehicle fueling positions. In addition to the traffic study, other studies and assessments were performed over the last couple of years, and that information has all been included in this November 2023 report that's been provided. So the traffic study was performed to determine the potential impacts to the roadway network associated with the proposed development. Our study area included Main Road and Souza Road, along with the following intersections: the Main Road, Souza Road, Schooner Drive intersection, the Main Road, Village Road intersection, and the 2 proposed side entrances on Main Road and the Souza Road entrance. The side entrance on Main Road will provide an exit-only movement at the north entrance to the site, and the enter-only movements will occur at the south entrance. The Souza Road access is proposed to be a full entryway in and out for the site. The limits of the study that we performed were determined early on through coordination with the previous town planner. These limits for the study area were also reviewed by the town's peer reviewer when we were going from the planning board, Crossman Engineering, and they concurred in a letter dated to the town from September of 2022 that our study area is correct and accurate and acceptable. Crossman, agreed that based on the size of the development and the amount of traffic that's being generated, they felt that our study area is more than adequate that we looked at for the study. So one of the first steps that we did when we did the study was the task of doing the data collection process. PAR performed data collection process. So we performed several tasks in regards for the data collection. We went ahead, we did field reviews to investigate traffic patterns and roadway geometrics. We obtained during the field reviews such information as site distances, posted speed limits, actual traffic speeds, pavement widths, and traffic control devices. We also performed manual turning movement counts of vehicles and pedestrians on March 18th, 2021 during the morning and afternoon peak hours. Counts were performed at the 2 intersections I mentioned before, Main Road with Souza Road and Main Road with Village Road intersection. If you recall, in March of 2021, when the counts were performed, the COVID pandemic was still considered ongoing. We made an adjustment to the counts based on our coordination with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, who at the time recommended that there be a 20% increase in the traffic volumes due to the COVID pandemic. We applied that into our traffic streams and we added everything up by 20%. The Rhode Island Department of Transportation came up with that 20% increase based on historical data that they had pre-pandemic and during the pandemic through traffic counting stations throughout the state. So at the time, that's what they were going with. Again, the town's peer reviewer, Crossman Engineering, went ahead and they reviewed this. They coordinated with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, and they agreed with our application of increasing the 20% into the traffic stream. So at the request of the town and through comments received at the planning board hearing back in July, I believe it was, of 2022, PAR did perform additional automated traffic recorder counts at the end of June of 2022. We compared the adjusted pandemic counts from March of 2021, and we compared those to the June 2022 counts. Based on our review, we found that the 2021 counts with the 20% adjustment were higher than the June of 2022 counts. So instead of using the June counts, we remain conservative and we still maintain for existing traffic volumes the adjusted 2021 counts for our use for doing the analysis. This procedure is described in detail in our November report, November 23.
Feedback that was hard to hear.
I'm sorry, what did they say?
Can you repeat?
Sure. All right, so I'll go back just in regards. How's that?
Referring to June dates in 2020.
Yes.
Just repeat. So just to summarize, and then I'll ask you to repeat what you said. Back in 2020, 2021, and 2022, a bunch of counts were done. Because it was during COVID, we did a 20% bump based on DOT recommendations. Public comment, et cetera, said that was concerned that might not be accurate. So in June of 2021, you did additional counts. 2022. I'm sorry, June of 2022, you did additional counts in real time, post-COVID. Those counts were lower in volume than the adjusted. And Mr. Shevlin then testified that PAR Engineering stuck with the more conservative 20% adjusted counts from the prior counts for purposes of the analysis.
Can I just ask one follow-up? So in your report, you indicate that based on the results of the comparison of the counts, we are of the opinion that the counts obtained in March of 2021 with the 20% COVID-19 factor adjustments are conservative, meaning that they overstate the amount of traffic that's actually at the site.
When compared to the June 2022 numbers.
Okay.
Because, as the
When you
counts
use the
right
term
now are,
conservative, I think less, but you actually mean more.
conservatively more.
Right,
Correct,
okay.
correct.
So I just want to clarify for the board, that's what.
And John, speak right into the microphone.
Yes.
Yeah, just pick it up a little bit, right into your mouth. Yeah.
Okay, so also as part of our data collection, we also performed vehicle counts in May of 2023 at drive-through windows of 2 Season stores in Smithfield and Situate, Rhode Island. These 2 store locations are similar in that they both have the same corner market cafe that's being proposed at this site. So we wanted to go ahead and these counts were performed to understand what the typical customer demand and queue lengths that occur during the peak hours at the drive-throughs are at these 2 types of corner market cafes. We felt that this is not going to be a Dunkin' Donuts. It's a small store inside, 400 square feet with a drive-through. We know just from driving through there, it does not have the customer base that occurs at the ones that you see for Dunkin' Donuts. So we wanted to get similar volumes so we could compare what's occurring for a lot of reasons, for analysis of traffic volumes and also just in regards to queuing at the driveways and at the drive-through. So we got that information for that. And then lastly, as far as our data collection, we also went ahead and obtained crash data for the roadway network in the vicinity of the project site. And we obtained that from the Tiverton Police Department for a 3-year period. And we obtained that information to determine any potential trends that may lead to any mitigation that should be incorporated if we found any trends in the crash data. So this is all part of our safety study that was done. So I'll go into our safety study and what we did for that. So after we completed the data collection, our traffic safety analysis was performed. Several factors were examined when conducting our safety analysis. We looked at the crash data for the study area. We looked at the speeds, both the posted speeds and also the actual speeds that are being traveled. We looked at the physical characteristics and geometries of the roadways and the intersections, and we looked at the road obstructions and the sight lines that would be coming out of the proposed development. So I'll start first with the existing crash data. The information we received from the Tiverton Police Department over the 3-year period indicated within our study area that there was not a pattern of crashes that were occurring. We found there were only 7 crashes in the entire study area over the 3-year period. Of those 7 crashes, 3 of the crashes occurred at the main road, Souza Road, Schooner Drive intersection, and all 3, Main Road, Souza Road, and Schooner Drive. And then all those 3 of those intersections were property damage only, so there's no accidents that occurred and any injuries. The remaining 4 crashes that occurred were spread out at various locations on Main Road, and I will note that 3 of the 4 crashes that occurred were involving an animal that was hit. And then of the total 7 crashes, we could report that only 1 resulted in a minor injury. So we also went ahead and we looked at the speeds on Main Road and Souza Road. Again, the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour on Main Road and 30 miles per hour for Souza Road. Based on the collected data that we had for the speeds in the vicinity of the site, it was determined that the 85th percentile speeds, which is the speed at or below which 85% of the drivers will operate and is typically used for the operating design speed, was 42 miles per hour for Main Road, and we ended up using 45 mile per hour design speed to look at the sight lines. And then for Souza Road, the 85th percentile speed was 39 miles per hour, and we used a design speed of 40 miles per hour, so we bumped it up to 40 miles per hour. Reviewing the proposed development layout, the access drives, we did go ahead and take a look at the sight lines coming out of the exit movements from both driveways. And we found that based on the speeds that are occurring out there and the visibility of the roadways, we're able to get adequate sight lines in order to be able to safely exit from the proposed development at both driveways. As far as the traffic impact analysis goes, we went ahead and we looked at, in this phase, 3 different conditions as far as the traffic conditions. We looked at the existing conditions, which were our existing counts, and our existing counts being the ones from 2021 with the 20% adjustment. We looked at the future no-build conditions, which expands our existing volumes out 5 years, and those are based on the 5-year build-out is based on U.S. Census data. And we apply that growth factor onto there. And then lastly, we also went ahead and we determined in regards to other developments that are occurring in the area, and we added those into the traffic stream for the future no-build. And then lastly, we analyzed the future build conditions that includes the future no-build conditions, plus the traffic that's going to be from our proposed development with the seasons at the intersection.
Are you saying, I'm having trouble following you when you say no build?
Yeah,
What are you
so
talking
future
about?
no-build is what's going to be occurring out there 5 years from now if this project's not built. Our project's not built, so it's what's the traffic is now, plus a growth factor that may occur due to population in the area that's going to increase the traffic naturally. And if there are other developments that could be occurring, what does that traffic do to the traffic capacities of the area?
Thank you.
So the future no-build conditions, like I said, were expanded out 5 years, and we applied the 0.5% growth rate on that. We also did coordinate with the planning department to learn of other developments in the area and included those traffic volumes into our future no-build conditions. Our original report that we did back in 2021, excuse me, we were told to include the Tiverton Heights development only into the future no-build conditions, so that was added in there at the time. And then more recently, we asked to go ahead and include the Bayview condominium development, which is now being referred to as the Souza Road development. From my understanding of, on that development, that currently they had a master plan submission that was approved, but from my understanding, the master plan approval has expired and the project has not been going anywhere, so I'm not sure if that project could be built or not. But we do have the traffic volumes from that into our analysis.
Yeah, just let me interrupt you just to make sure I'm capturing everything you've done. So you've taken the actual speed limits, not what's posted, but what cars actually do from your data on Main Road. And then you bumped that up a couple miles an hour to a round number. And you did the same on Souza Road.
That's correct.
Then you also compared the no build as if nothing's built on our site and did a 5-year projection based on natural traffic growth, based on your engineering expertise and standard practice. And then you added on top of that, planning department recommended inclusion of projects in the pipeline.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. So for the future conditions, we developed a number of trips that will be generated from our site using, again, the Institute Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And I mentioned before in regards to this is the manual that helps you determine what the trips are for each type of use that's could be occurring on that in order to get the peak hour traffic volumes that could occur from a particular type of use. When we did our study in 2021, we used what was published at the time, which was the 10th edition of the Trip Generation Manual. Since the time that report was originally done, there's an 11th edition that has come out and was released back in late 2022, I believe it was. So we did compare in regards to what the proposed trips are going to be, comparing the 10th edition versus the updated 11th edition. The volumes for the trips were higher with the 10th edition than the 11th edition. So again, we went ahead, we just kept the higher number in there as far as trip generations used in the 10th edition. The number wasn't that significantly different, but it was a little bit higher, but we kept those in there just for the analysis. So for the coffee shop drive-through, we reviewed the projected volumes, again, using the same manual for a particular type of use with a coffee shop with a drive-through. We compared those volumes generated from the manual, and we based it on traffic from the adjacent street versus trip generation based on the size of the development, the 400 square foot store that's going to be here for the shop. We compared those two based on the volumes that we obtained at the other two sites in Smithfield and Situate to compare what makes more sense for what's going to be generated. So we ended up using these based on the size of the coffee store, and it seemed very close, or it was very close in regards to what we obtained out at the Smithfield and Situate stores for traffic volumes during the peak hours. So that's what we used for our analysis for that. So for the proposed development during the weekday AM peak hour, it's estimated that there'll be approximately 90 vehicles that will be entering and exiting the site. And during the weekday PM peak hour, it's estimated that there'll be approximately 95. On the weekday PM peak hour, it's estimated that approximately 95 vehicles will be entering and exiting the site. But again, as I noted before, that all the trips accessing the site will not be new trips and added into the traffic stream. Many of the trips will be, as we talked about before, pass-by trips, and they'll be stopping at the site in order to go ahead and access that. So the uses proposed on the site, the gas station, convenience store, and the coffee shop or the drive-through, are all significant amount of pass-by trips. So taking those into account, the new trips that we projected to be added into the traffic stream are approximately 34 new trips in the AM peak hour and 42 new trips that will be added in the PM peak hour.
And what are the peak hours?
The morning was 7:30 to 8:30, and the afternoon was, I think, 4:45 to 5:45, I believe. But I can look in the report. It was somewhere between the time that we got the counts, but I believe it's 7:30. I can give you the definite peak hours. Yeah, so for the morning peak hour, we use the worst case. It was 7:30 to 8:30 at the Souza Road, Main Road, Schooner Road intersection. And it was 7:15 to 8:15 for Village Road and Main Road.
I'm sorry, 7:15
To 8:15 a.m. for the Village Road, Main Road intersection. Then the afternoon peak hour is 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock for both conditions,
I'm sorry.
for both intersections. 4 to 5, yep.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you have an exact number between 9 and your proposed hours, 12 o'clock? A traffic count between 9 p.m. and 12 p.m. per
No.
hour? You don't?
No, our counts, we went in, we did the peak hour, which is typically, the 7 to 9, and then the 4 to 6, where, the commuter traffic is usually occurring. It's usually the highest volumes during the course of the day.
Have you ever done any season stations from 9 to 12? Anything you have to compare? Like nothing?
I have not, no.
Okay. And you have nothing off-peak hours, like from 5 to 8, for example, 5 to 7, 7 to 8. So you stopped at 5 peak hours. That's the only count you have.
We stopped at 6 p.m.
6 o'clock. I'm sorry,
Yes.
6 p.m.
Yeah, 4 to 6
Hi,
p.m.
Thank you.
Yep. So we went ahead and we then performed our capacity analysis, and we performed the capacity analysis through the 3 conditions that we talked about, the existing, future no build, and future build. To compare what the impacts will be from the development, we compared the future build analysis to the future no build analysis to determine what the impacts are. So the results that we obtained from the Main Road, Souza Road, Schooner Drive intersection shows that in the AM peak hour, there's only one decrease in level of service at the approaches to this intersection, and that's for the movement from Souza Road to Main Road. The level of service, which is a measure in regards to how the amount of delay that occurs at an intersection, decreases from level service C to level service D, which are acceptable levels of services at this intersection.
Sorry, from level service C to
Level service D, which are considered acceptable levels of service. But the increase in delay only is 2 seconds between the level of service D and D. So basically, it's showing that we're at the threshold of a C and D, and with the small amount of traffic added, and increased it to push it up to a D.
That went right over my head. Could you
Yeah.
explain
So,
that again?
yeah, so the level, like I said, the level of service just is an indicator in regards to the operations of an intersection. So it's based on the amount of delay for making a turning movement
Okay.
out of a site. So, so like I said, for the future no build, for that movement, it was level service C, and then it was an increase in delay by 2 seconds, and it bumped it up to level service D. But it was,
So of all, I'm sorry, if I may, of all the movements there at that intersection, that one turn was slowed down, no build compared to full build. with the drive-through and with the fuel dispensers, there was a 2-second delay. Now, that 2 seconds, because we were at the low end of C, pushed it down into D. That's his point.
And one more question. So did you go to any of their season station for River, for example, this 2-lane road, and took the count and the speed on a rush hour when a delivery being made? What's the delay? When a truck trying to pull in into a gas station that is full of cars?
I did not do any analysis in any other seasons intersection to compare it to this, because each site is different. Different amount of lanes, different volumes of traffic and such, so.
I'm assuming they have a volume what they're gonna sell in the station, what predicting to sell. Somehow we should have had a number, the amount of delivery being delivered. I know what comes to my station and the amount I sell every other day. They've got 36,000 gallons. How many delivery they get in a week, a day, at night? They said they will not deliver at night. It's important to me to know if that truck pulls in at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and cannot get into that station on a stormy day, I repeat that all myself, what happened to that truck and how long that delays that traffic. That's important to the neighbors or everybody using that road.
Yeah, and we have looked at that. I know it's been discussed. I'm comfortable stating that there's room on the site for a truck that does come for the delivery. I don't think it's going to impact any traffic that's going to be coming in and out of the site during those peak hours. And I think if you do go to a Seasons and you go there anywhere between, say, 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, you'll see it's a very light amount of traffic compared to when people are going to work and returning home from work.
Yeah, and if I may also remind Mr. Alzebak, we had talked, said it correctly. Said it correctly after months. Remember, we've, with substantial questioning, anticipate 2 underground storage tanks, and then in our prior testimony, we anticipate only a couple of deliveries a week, understanding there are storms, et cetera. And for the record, again, I'll reemphasize, we understand that if the board feels that certain conditions should be placed in terms of delivery, et cetera, we'll work with those conditions.
I had one question that I didn't want to interrupt you, but since we're being so rude and doing it now. When you talked about the traffic study and the accident, your dates for analysis were like, as I understand, January 18th through December 20th,
2020.
2020.
Correct.
Did you do anything after that? I mean, to look at any?
We did not get anything beyond that point. I know when we did the study back in 2021, we asked for the most current 3 years, and that is what was provided at the time. Then we had a couple of years here with COVID. I know I've testified in front of people saying, well, you got crash data that occurred during COVID. So we felt that was probably the most appropriate, still factual in regards to what the crashes were. So
Well, I'll be rude and ask one more question, I promise. Do you, as a traffic study professional, do you feel the way the state of the traffic these days and the speed? I know you increase everybody by 2 miles and 3 miles, but if you do traffic, they'd go on the highway. I don't think the cops could catch up to anybody. I'm going 80 miles an hour. There's no one behind me. You go down Stafford Road, 50 is like the norm. Have you ever considered going back to main roads since COVID? Because let me tell you, the speed for all of us driving these roads is amazing how we became speed hungry. So I would like to know like a speed now to where we are compared to December 22nd. We are a totally different country now than we were before. That's my opinion.
yeah, I mean, typically what we find when we do speed studies, even the current ones, I mean, typically you find on the types of road that, main road is Souza Road, especially Souza Road, the volume's there because you're coming up to the intersection, so the speeds are low on Souza Road. On Main Road, I mean, typically we find it anywhere between 5 to 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. That's not to say that cars aren't going faster than that, but you're taking 85th percentile speed, and I'm sure that other 15% you'll find will be driving faster than, the 5, 10 miles that we're suggesting. So, but where was I? Oh, so yeah, so
Something about level C and level D.
yeah. So in the PM peak hour, I'll go back just as far as the same thing for the PM peak hour for the Souza Road, Main Road intersection. That had a decrease in level of service of 3.5 seconds. So again, a relatively minor increase in delay based on the additional traffic that's being added into there.
Can I, just for the board, so D is less than C, right? So
D is less than
A is
C.
the best.
A is the best.
B, C, D.
D,
So
and F,
it's a
yeah.
decrease in the.
There's a
level, so-
decrease, yes, correct. So we also went ahead and analyzed the Main Road, Village Road intersection, and this wasn't simple. There was no decrease in level of service. There was very minor increase in the amount of delay. In the AM peak hour at that intersection for the movements out of Village Road, the delay increased by a little bit more than 1/2 second. And the same thing in the PM peak hour. The delay coming out of that intersection was just a little bit more than 1/2 second. So in summary, all the other intersection analysis we performed, none of them showed a significant increase in delay that would give me a concern in regards to the overall capacity of the intersections.
Let me, since you're taking a breath, did you look at any of the other drive-through coffee places in Tiverton for comparison purposes?
I did not. The Dunkin' Donuts or any,
There's a Dunkin' Donuts and there's a Sip and Dip.
yeah, I did not compare how they're operating. I thought, like I said, based on the proposed coffee shop that they're proposing, I thought it was more appropriate to compare it to what their other sites and how they draw. I know I live up in Cumberland, and they have a Mary Lou's. I know does not seem to generate the amount of traffic that you see by the Dunkin' Donuts down the road. They're definitely not as popular that we see it for those types of uses.
And Mr. Shevlin, in addition to comparing to the two other season sites, you also utilized the square footage and the drive-through traffic projections of your professional manual?
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct.
Question.
Yes.
You talk about an increase in time of a second or 2 seconds, but what's the standing time
Can you
at
use
that?
your microphone? We can't hear you back here.
I was asking the engineer, he's talking about an increase of time of 1 to 2 seconds at that intersection, but what's the standing time that you got your foot on the brake, waiting for traffic to pass by, and now it's increased by that second? And you're there 10 seconds, now you're at 11?
No, well, good question. So for in the AM peak hour, the delay is 24.8 seconds during the future no build, and then it goes up to 26.5 for the future build. So that's the increase in the AM peak hour. And the PM peak hour, it's 33.4 seconds, and then it goes up to 37.2 for the movement from Souza Road onto Main.
Thank you.
Ask a question. Can I ask one question?
Yes.
I have a question about the drive-through. If the drive-through is eliminated, or did you do a study indicating if the drive-through eliminated, does that decrease the number of I forgot what your term was, new visits to the?
Very small number.
Is that number in your report anywhere? Because I didn't see that.
It does have the trips that are generated from the coffee shop drive-through, and if you look on page, if you look on page 16, table 8, trip generation summary.
What generation summary?
Trip generation summary. So I'll put it on the record. So in the morning, we anticipated 18 visitors through the drive-through. Then the afternoon peak hour, there'd be 8.
And those would be new trips.
There's a percentage that is pass-by trips.
Okay.
That type of use is similar. People stop on the way, and they'll be like, I'm going to stop and get a coffee or whatever.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You might have said it, but unless I missed it. Do you have an actual traffic count of customers coming in and out of the actual site in total? Other than peak hour, like customers
Into the
coming in and out,
convenience?
like to use the exits, to use the entrance, they're trying to get out?
I do not. do not have that count.
Do you, as a professional, think if you have 100 customer hour going into that station, and now they all need to exit from that exit, do you take into account that coming out, that gas station will slow the traffic substantially, trying to stop to let them out? If somebody going 45 miles an hour, now they're slamming on the brakes, they're trying to get, two cars trying to escape the station, do you believe that will really slow that traffic more? If you have 100 customers an hour in that station?
Yeah, I mean, our capacity analysis gives you the amount of time that's going to pull out of the site, and people will be pulling out of the site when they feel it's safe conditions to pull out. So you may have cars that may be going and driving down the road that may go ahead and reduce their speed a little bit because they see a car that's exiting out, which is similar to really any kind of access into any kind of development.
But we don't have a traffic count to what they expect, the projection of sales or whatever, how many cars going to come in.
Well, we do have a count as far as visitors to the site overall.
Okay, sorry.
No, okay, yeah, I just want to be, I think I understand the question. So you didn't do like a 24-hour count or blocks of time, but you did it at peak hours, and is that the standard in the industry? Is that your standard engineering practice to use the most intense use of the site, which would be the peak hours?
Yes, all the analysis as far as getting data for future traffic, it's compared to the peak hours in the morning and afternoon peak hours. And that's, so you're applying that to what is typically the worst hour of the day for traffic, or worst hour of the day, in order to go ahead and add that into that. So the trip generations are based on the peak hour conditions, and those are from 7 to 9 and 4 to 6 for this type of use.
Okay, so can I ask one more question? I'm sorry. I know we interrupted, but this is like, if I let it go, eventually we're going backward.
Yep, no.
Sorry about that. So I am one of those people who was concerned about the 24 hours. We talked about it, not concerned, but we were talking about it. And as a board member sitting over here, and I'm saying, okay, this company want to open 24 hours, and they said, no, we're going to open until 12 o'clock. They did it on their own. We're going to open until midnight. As a board member, if you tell me from this time to this time is doing that much, but what is it doing from the time? Like, if I don't like the idea of 12 o'clock, or if I like the idea of 12 o'clock, are we keeping the neighborhood awake to sell 10 cars an hour? Or we're keeping all these lights when everybody bother for 20 cars an hour? Are we chasing the dollars per hour after 7 o'clock? So as a board member, you're asking me to keep you open in the midnight. I don't know if you're asking me that, but we're asking until midnight. I need to know why I'm giving you until midnight, or why do we think in a town like Tiverton you really need to be open until midnight, not 9 o'clock like everybody else?
Yeah, and I understand, but it's not really part of the traffic study. Traffic study, we want to look at the worst conditions that the traffic's occurring. I will tell you, just based on experience, and you go to the seasons at 9 o'clock at night, you're lucky if you're going to see 3 or 4 cars tops there. And even on the roadway itself, there's really no traffic at that time of night too. So it's not really, there's no traffic safety or capacity issues at those times. That's why we don't look at those times.
That's exactly the answer I'm looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Talk about peak hour. This is not the opportunity for you to ask questions. It's after the lawyers get to cross-examine, okay?
I'm sorry to interrupt so many times.
No, that's good.
I have a question for you. I mean, does the board have any discretion to limit the hours of operation?
Yes, if it's based on objective facts, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
But how do we determine what is acceptable and what is not?
Well, based upon the testimony of the witnesses, and I'm sure you're going to hear from the neighbors, so that's, you kind of base it upon that, what they believe the concerns are, the volume is and whatnot, but it's got to be based on something. You just can't be, you can't just say, well, I want you to close at 8 o'clock because that's what I want. You got to base it on something based upon either the expert testimony or the factual testimony that the witnesses gave, but, so.
Another question.
Okay.
Listening to what you've been saying so far, you've been giving us a lot of data, a lot of information about the safety of this particular site. And I'm wondering how much of that is driven by the fact that it's seasons that we're talking about and not some other gas station restaurant combination. Would we see similar results if somebody else was using this property? Or is there something unique about Seasons that's driving all these results to different levels that might be considered unacceptable?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at this just based on this particular type of use, but as I started off, there are other uses that could be put on this site by right.
I'm talking about similar uses.
You know, I think if you have a similar, I don't know who else is out there, but if a similar size facility with similar number of pumps and a drive-through, and if it's a smaller coffee shop, it probably has similar types of traffic that's going to occur from the site.
So really, a lot of the safety is being driven by the traffic rate, the flow rate, these delays that any gas station would have delays for trucks going in and out. You know, there's nothing significant, or I'm asking you if there's anything significant about Seasons that would be making the traffic safety situation significantly worse than if any other owner was operating the same use.
Yeah, and it's based on the layout of the site. I don't think it being Seasons is making it safer, but we did lay this out in order to go ahead and make sure that when you're leaving the site, you're able to see clearly up and down the road in order to be able to pull out.
But there isn't a whole lot of room to change the design. You've got an inlet and an outlet. You can't move that a whole lot in this.
Correct.
So
correct.
We wouldn't see much of a change, I gather.
Well, we made it safer because we originally had both those access drives on Main Road at one time. They're both in and out movements. So in order to clarify or clean up that area, we made an enter and only driveway. So that way it separates the traffic and you have it more concentrated and not, two driveways in proximity to each other with all movements going in and out. So this is going to be a lot cleaner as far as the amount of movements coming in and out of the site.
All right, that's good for now. Thank you.
Oh, okay, but if I could just follow up to make sure I understand the question and the answer. I mean, your Institute of Data, with the databases you use, have collected data over how many years roughly?
For these types of developments?
Yeah.
15, 20 years?
20 years
Yeah.
of data, so probably thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands, would it be fair to say, of sites have been thrown into the data pool?
Yeah.
And the type of use, a convenience store with a drive-through, you've distinguished between those, but here you did calculations based on the square footage of the convenience store and the 4 dispensers?
That's correct.
Yeah, so and based on that data pool, you're reasonably comfortable as a professional that these are accurate counts, and that wouldn't be discriminately higher or lower if it were Cumberland Farms or another type of use?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just make sure I understood that question. Okay.
Thank you.
Want to continue?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Continue? Okay, all right. So that's a summary in regards to what we did for our traffic study for the safety analysis, capacity analysis. I just want to go ahead and just make note that we did submit a physical alteration permit application to the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. As part of the physical alteration permit application, what the DOT does is they review these applications for new developments along a state road. And they basically look at 3 components. They look at the impacts on the state roads for the stormwater. They review the traffic study, and they review the traffic access for safety in and out of the site. And that DOT has had that for, I don't know how many months now, but we did get notification last Wednesday stating that they have finished the review and they are approving our submittal to the DOT. They feel like the project has been designed and it's going to have no significant impact for the on the roadways as far as traffic capacity and safety and also stormwater. So we should have the actual physical permit in our hands, I would think, any day now from the DOT. So that was good news on that. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention in regards to the state has gone ahead and reviewed this as well because it's on a state road. So.
We'll provide a copy of that immediately upon receipt to opposing counsel and to the solicitor and the clerk.
Are you going to address stormwater in your,
That has been done early on. I'm just traffic.
okay.
That was debris engineering.
So,
All the
I'm sorry, do you have,
No, just going to wrap up in regards to, just want to reiterate, again, that, this is a site that will be developed. We are in the opinion that this site will generate less new traffic compared to some potential by right developments that could occur here. Our traffic study has shown that the traffic safety, traffic capacity issues are insignificant, so we feel that this could be developed and maintain the safety and the capacity that occurs and not make it any worse. And then, like I said, as DOT went ahead with the review of the physical alteration permit, we feel like any issues that they have been addressed, and we feel like this project's, should have no significant impact to the safety or capacity in the surrounding area.
and Mr. Shevlin, when you, okay.
Your floor.
Okay, so when you say the project, this is a little nuanced, and we've talked about this with other witnesses. This application is for 3 special use permits. We're not asking for any waivers, variances with respect to the retail store component, the convenience store component. So you did an analysis both as the project no build and then specifically compared the pumps and the drive-through, which affect traffic, when compared to other market liquor store examples, right?
Correct.
So with that in mind, will the fuel pumps and the drive-through be detrimental to the public health or safety based on traffic?
I don't believe so.
Okay, and again, just based on traffic, would the fuel pumps and the drive-through adversely affect the general character of the neighborhood based on the traffic flow?
I don't believe so.
And based on, again, the data you've submitted, and given the slight, mostly neutral, but in some instances, single-digit seconds delay, will that hinder vehicular movement on Main Road or Souza Road?
No, will not.
Now, I also remind the board, and we submitted a memorandum back in November to this effect, and I'll just remind you of the RBSE properties case from 2006, where the Rhode Island Supreme Court held that a special use permit cannot be denied on the ground that a certain condition would arise when that condition could equally occur with a permitted use. So that the court, as the solicitors advised you, we're here for the fuel pumps and for the drive-through. And for traffic purposes, if we reasonably demonstrate that there's not going to be an increased adverse effect on that, then the special use permit should be granted.
Can you give me the site of that case?
I can provide that. It's RBSE Properties. It's a 2006 case. It's in our memorandum. The site for that is in the memorandum.
Thank you.
And then there's also the Perrin case, P as in Peter, ERRON, which we also cite, that any development is going to have an increased number of cars. So for purposes of the special use permit, your traffic analysis guidelines are a mere increase in traffic unaccompanied by a resulting hazard. That site is not a valid, with a demonstrable resulting hazard at that site is not a zoning criteria, a valid zoning criteria. So just saying, well, there's certainly going to be more cars. We acknowledge there's going to be some more cars on the road with development. But we meet the standard for the special use permit if there's not a demonstrable hazard resulting from that. So that concludes our testimony, our direct testimony of Mr. Shevlin. Of course, the board may have more questions, as always. I know then opposing counsel will have some questions for him and the public, and we're
Mr.
happy.
Counsel, before you go on, you kept on referencing an updated March 8th letter. I don't know if that was included in this booklet.
Second.
No, it's not.
Okay.
The booklet was submitted in November. And then on March 8, we hand-delivered another packet because we had started talking about some updated numbers, and that packet included,
Oh, it's with when you submitted the maps. Okay.
yes,
okay,
yes,
thank
with
you.
that.
I have a
Thank you.
Actually, I have a question. I have a question for you first, because you just made a statement, kind of, we had a discussion about this before, you guys, so many times. And by your statement saying that the traffic exists and everything, we had asked that question before, and the attorneys asked before, if we consider this is a local station, and at the time you said, well, we've got the highway coming off the bridge, but that's no longer the same traffic. That you need to take, he might not have taken it into account, but you're selling the station last few meetings was not a local station. It's, we got some outside traffic is gonna come in and buy from us off the bridge. It's been said here on the record. So my point is, you keep saying the traffic is not gonna increase. If we go by your description before, it was, yeah, it will increase because we're getting traffic off the bridge. We're staying open late because of that. So that statement doesn't seem like a jive.
Okay, well, I think I understand your question. So remember, for purposes of this analysis, in addition to traffic, you have to consider whether the project, the requests for the fuel pumps and the drive-through are consistent with the town comprehensive plan. And in the comprehensive planning analysis, as Mr. Pimentel testified to, and he was examining question, one of the issues you look at is regional versus local impact on the conditions on the site. And Mr. Pimentel testified that from your planning perspective, Main Road from Souza Road north is considered to be a commercial attraction, and you want cars to come in. So he accommodated that in his testimony as well. For traffic purposes, what Mr. Shevlin did was actually did counts on Main Road in Souza, and then he over a long period of time, and he also compared them no build to future build over the next 5 years where cars are anticipated to come. So I understand that they're both fruits, but one's apples and one's oranges to the extent of how you apply them to this. Now, if I may, we've always said this as well. Not every site is the same, and there are some unique characteristics to each site. So it's within your discretion, to your point earlier, when you analyze all this data and you say, well, we might want the lighting to be a little different, the timing to be a little different here because of some unique circumstances. And we've acknowledged you have that power as long as it's reasonable and allows us the underlying conditionally permitted use.
Okay, I have one question before you leave the table. I know you have, at one time, I don't know when this happened, before we got the application, that you had changed from entrance and exit on the same, so the top was instead of in and out, and then about now it's one way. In your experience, how many people actually follow these arrows? Do you ever, when you do traffic, sit across that station and say, well, they literally, everybody follow these arrows. They only come from one way and they go out one way?
Yeah, I think with the one-way driveways, people adhere to those.
Really?
I do.
Mr. Shevlin, are you saying because of the driveway itself, the distance, one would have to be going the wrong way quite a bit?
Yeah, and with the signage that we're putting in there for the one-way and the arrows, I typically don't see people going in the one-way driveways like
I
that.
just watched it at Season. I have a picture of it. Mary Lou entrance, that a guy took it out trying to go in the place the wrong way. What I'm trying to say, and it's not a joke, what I'm trying to say is we need to take that into account, that the fact is people don't always follow painted arrow. It just doesn't literally work for that. So my question to you as a professional, did you ever take into account that these arrows then really people follow? Does that change the count? Does it really, this is how it really specifically works? I know you work by numbers and seconds. I've had 6 gas stations as big as this and a lot smaller than that. No one follows errors. No one does.
If people do not obey the signage and the movements in that area, it's going to be a very, very small number that this is going to occur that's not going to impact our analysis. I can't imagine anybody coming down Main Road and southbound, taking a left turn into the one-way exit movement. I think it'd be very, very, very rare.
As I've proposed before, you have to physically make the entrancing into that property very difficult coming down that way. If you leave it open the way it is, as an engineer and design, there is no way they're not going to use it.
Well, I think when you have a driveway for the entrance movement, for example, you got to have it so you can access both ways, northbound and southbound. So you can't skew that and make it harder for somebody coming southbound because they all got to go in the same driveway.
Cross-examination?
Yeah, just one question. Your colleague Carol's going to go first.
I'm sorry,
Bob.
who's that, please?
Yeah. Christopher DeVideo for Tracy Hayward. Bob, just to be clear, that's Romeo Bravo Sierra RBS Properties?
RBSE Properties. Oh, wait a minute. It's 2006 Westlaw 572817 at page 5.
And that's a Supreme Court or Superior Court?
I don't have that. It cites Center Realty, which was a Supreme Court case.
Very good, thank you.
I just don't
Oh,
recall.
I got it here. Good job.
Susan, do you need a break? Or you want to, can you go another 15 minutes? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Benson on behalf of Preserve Tiverton. Mr. Shevlin, your testimony, you started with your March 8th, 2024 report, so I'm going to try to follow the way your testimony came in. And I want to start with something that seems pretty interesting to everyone and make sure we understand what it is. And that is a definition of this level of service D. So it's more than just a delay, it's fair to say, right? It's more than just the 2 seconds or the accumulated 14 seconds, right?
Level of service is based on delay, overall delay, correct?
Okay, and DOT, I got the manual out there, it's,
I'm sorry for not, John, can you just speak into the microphone even
Yes.
when you're answering the question?
safety manual's like 104 pages. They go into some great detail about what level of service means. I'm going to ask you if you agree with this. Level of service D is approaching unstable traffic flows. Yes or no?
That's correct,
It's from the DOT manual, right?
right?
On level of service D, minor incidences are expected to create delays. That's right?
Could be, depending on the conditions, not always.
Okay. I'm reading from the manual. It's no,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hide my cards here.
No, but I think with that manual, I think you look now, there's a lot of roadways now operate at that type of level of service.
Okay, but the goal is to maintain level of service C or better.
And it's very hard to do.
Is that a yes or no?
I would say no.
Okay. I believe what the DOT goals are is that the common goal is to attain and maintain a level of service C.
But I think you'll find most roads, state roads in particular, don't come close to a level service C.
Okay. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I just need a minute to get my right notes because I wasn't doing the 2004. All right. So your new report, newest, the March of 2024, is a supplemental traffic report, correct?
The March 2024 is a letter comparing by right uses versus what is being proposed in regards to showing in regards to with another development in there that has a by right use could generate more traffic than what is being proposed from our development.
Right. You provided the uses as a matter of right, but it didn't add or expand on any data collection. Fair to say? Doesn't offer any new impacts on what this development, if it were to be permitted.
No, we included a level of service analysis with that letter, so it takes into account the traffic counts and the volumes on the roadways, and we did go ahead and apply what the proposed trips are going to be between our development and what those other uses would have, and compare those.
Okay. And in effect, you're saying that these uses, as a matter of right, might have certain impacts, correct?
Correct.
All right. And all those so-called conclusions are based on the hypothetical developments. You mentioned 2 of them. That's also correct?
2 uses, hypothetical, something that could be built there, yes. It's something that is allowed, yes.
And then when you also supplemented your information, you resorted to using what you characterized as similar uses. That's your own admission in the report. That's page 2 of your report, page 30 of the package. You characterized them as similar uses, correct?
Where on page 2?
Page 30 of the package. I think it's the original package that was submitted. I'm sorry. Thought I was making it easier for everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. I can do better than that. It's page 2 of the March 8th report, second full paragraph. You reviewed various, quote, similar uses for their bypass rates. Right? Similar.
On page 2, the second paragraph?
The use of a convenience store market does not identify a bypass rate, so para reviewed various similar retail uses for their various rates.
I use that in order to determine what the pass-by rates would be, because there is nothing for a market. There's either, for that type of retail use, there's, as I mentioned in here, the variety store, a freestanding discount store, a shopping center, shopping plaza, supermarket, or discount club. The most similar type of use that I would see out of those would be the variety store. So that's why we use the 34%. This is not going to be a discount, a freestanding discount store or a shopping center.
Right.
So and because it didn't have a pass-by rate for a market, we felt this was the most similar, which could be relatively accurate.
Okay, thank you. And let me ask if I understand the trip data. The trip data gets generated by averages, right?
Correct.
Yes. And the tool that you use, I think you testified, is the trip generation manual?
That's correct.
Right. And that uses situations to provide expected traffic generation. That's what you're sharing with us tonight,
Correct.
right? And the information is aggregated. We agree on that.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, did you end up using the 10th or the 11th for this March 8th report? Which version of the manual did you use?
For March 8th, I believe we used the 11th edition for the March 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you testified earlier that you had used the 10th for some of your data.
We used the 10th because, as I stated before, it was the higher number. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. It's also fair to say that various conclusions from the TGM can be more or less reliable based on a number of factors. Is that correct?
TGM?
Trip generation manual.
Trip generation manual?
Sorry.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yes. The various conclusions about the trip generation data can be more or less reliable based on certain factors, like how many studies were used to come up with these numbers for the variety store, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the numbers that we use for the AM and PM peak hour ahead, significant. Usually they give you a warning if they only have 1 or 4 sites, a very small number, saying be cautious using this, but for the trip generation, for what we're using on here, there was a significant amount of data that was collected for similar uses.
Okay. So you just covered that question. The number of studies undertaken for a particular use, it matters in the trip generation. The number of studies.
It gives you a warning in regards to if you have a small number of studies to be careful because there may not be enough data.
But you don't, for example, know how many studies were done for Variety Store, which is the one you used? You just know you didn't get the warning.
I used, in order to go ahead and develop the Variety Store, that was based on the pass-by trips. That was not based on regards to how many trips would be generated for the site. The Variety Store, as I mentioned, we use that because it was similar use to the market that we talked about. The trip generations were based on the convenience market that we used in order to determine how many trips would be developed.
Okay.
The Variety Store was just something to use because we knew there'd be some kind of trips that would be pass-by trips. And that seemed to be the most reasonable one to go ahead and use based on the other uses that pass-by information is available.
Okay, thank you. It's a lot of data, so I appreciate
of data.
the clarification. Yeah. So, I'm still, I don't want to say questioning the pass-by information, but I don't see anywhere in your report that you conclude with a reasonable degree of professional certainty that the resulting traffic won't have negative impacts on the health, safety, or welfare of the neighbors.
The traffic study had included in there in regards to what the impacts would be on the traffic safety and also on the traffic capacity. And there was no significant impacts to the traffic capacity. And the amount of crashes that occurred out there in the area show no reason, because of the layout of the site and the good visibility pulling out of the site, that there'd be no decrease in safety. So we don't feel, as far as this development would occur, that would have any significant impact.
I'll get to the accidents and the visibility in a minute. I just
Absolutely.
want to stay on this March 8th report, if we
Sure.
could, which doesn't talk about those subjects, okay? But what it does talk about, what I think you're trying to convince us is that some other uses could have less impacts. So for example, let's see, this is page 4 of the March report. There are other uses, such as a liquor store, that would certainly have less impact. That's your conclusion, right?
On page 4. I don't believe I state that it's going to have less impact. I believe it's going to increase more.
Nope, it's page 4 of the new report, right under your table 3. And it says, there are other uses such as a liquor store that would certainly have less impact in the morning peak hours.
Oh, correct.
And the reason I'm interested in that is because that could be significant for this roadway if in fact it's a commuter corridor for busing children to and from Tiverton schools.
And that is correct, and I testified to that a liquor store would have less traffic in the morning because they're not a big generator at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that statement is
So
correct.
this could go to the health, safety, and welfare of Tiverton residents.
But in the afternoon, it could create more traffic.
But the morning scenario, that's a yes, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not a big generator, but if you look at it for overall use in the afternoon peak hour, it could generate more traffic if we built a liquor store in that area.
I don't want to belabor the point, but you do say in your report, a liquor store would certainly have less impact on the morning peak hour, right? That's your conclusion.
Yes.
Okay.
Nobody,
And
the
you
only ones
don't,
going to a liquor store at 8 o'clock are the ones who are working there,
we can agree on
for the
that.
most part, I hope.
We'd both be in a lot of trouble if we
That's right.
suggested otherwise. But all kidding aside, you don't make any conclusions about bus traffic in any of your reports, not particularly. Isn't that fair to say?
That is correct.
Okay.
If there were any buses, they were included in the counts that we had in that area. Because our traffic counts did pick up in regards to buses, trucks, and such.
Okay. I'm going to move away from the new report and go back to the underlying data, if I might. How's my pace for you? Karen? Okay. Peak hours, I want to make sure I understand that. I think some members of the board also had questions about that. You testified it's from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's morning peak hours. And that's what your original report, that is well, I guess this is the supplemental report. The November 2023 report says, all right? Now, this is for data collection. This is turning manual information. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's correct?
Those are typically considered what the peak hours are during the morning and afternoon conditions. And it's considered that because that's typically the time where you have your commuter traffic, which is usually the highest amount of traffic. So that's a 2-hour window that you do counts, and through that, you go ahead and you determine what is the peak actual 60 minutes of traffic to get the actual peak hour. So those are peak hours in the morning and afternoon, but you take that information in order to get what the actual peak hour is.
But you didn't get peak hour of operation of this kind of facility.
No, but
Okay, that's-
but the trip generation manual takes into account the worst case that this type of development would go ahead and create traffic into the site. It gives you the peak hour traffic that you can anticipate being generated from the site. And if you read the ITE trip generation manual, it'll show you that the peak hours for this type of site are between 7 and 9 and 4 to 6. And through that, it gives you numbers to show you what the actual volumes are during that worst hour that we add into the traffic stream.
Okay. Again, I'm staying with your November 2023 report. You mentioned earlier today that you had initially testified at the planning board hearing back in May of, I guess that was 2022?
2, I believe,
Yeah. And at that time, you presented some research that you had done on a report from January of 2022, correct?
That is correct.
Your original report? And you acknowledged then, and you accept that here today, that that report was based in large part on manual counts selected in a single day in 2021.
Correct.
A single day in 2021. And one was from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.? Oh, we just rehashed this, I'm sorry. And then 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I just want to be sure the 2021 data used that same window, a.m. peak, p.m. peak, yes?
That is correct.
And I apologize, it's just a lot of data.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah. And you collected data at 2 different intersections. Route 138 at Souza Road, and then Schooner Drive and 138, Village Road.
Village Road, 138. Schooner Drive and Souza Road are the same intersection.
And then you recently supplemented with some days in June of 2022?
Yes, we went out, we did traffic counts out there to compare what the volumes are in June of 2022 versus the May with the adjustment that we put on for the COVID.
Okay,
And
but getting back to my concerns about school kids and the counts and the validity of what your study is, schools were not in session when the count was done in June of 2022. Was it?
June of 2022, I
Doubt it.
think they were.
You think the schools were in
June
session?
of 2022, I believe they were.
Okay,
But I could check on that,
let's.
because COVID came in March of 2021. And I thought June of 2022. And actually, I think in June of 2022, when we did the counts, we were asked to do the counts more towards the 4th of July weekend. So school may not have been in at the time we did the counts, because they wanted counts more for the summer season.
So that's a typical, what we would call standard of care in your profession, to conduct traffic counts in a primarily residential area when school is not in session?
We do both. We do both. Depends on the setting and where the site is.
Well, this setting, even though it is zoned commercial, it is surrounded by residential. You agree with that, right? Okay.
Say yes, sir.
Yes.
And staying with the use of the area immediately surrounding the proposed site, you agree, and it's plainly stated in your report, that there's very limited sidewalk for pedestrians on Route 138.
I believe there's a sidewalk that's on the opposite side of our development.
Let's look at page 6 of your report. Sidewalks only exist along the west side of Main Road at the moment.
That's exactly what I just stated.
Okay. And if pedestrians in this largely residential neighborhood that surround the site want to come to the market, they're going to end up walking along the edge of Route 138. Is that fair to say?
They'll be walking along the sidewalk on 138, and that's where we put the street crossing in, going into the site.
But there's not sidewalks everywhere around the site,
That is correct.
and none are proposed. At least there's no room to put them as far as the
Well, there-
testimony has been.
Well, there's a sidewalk that's being put in on the south side of the site.
How about on Souza Road?
There's no sidewalks. I think it's been talked about at previous meetings about, potentially that could occur, but right now we haven't covered that. To get to the site, we added sidewalks in there, we added appropriate crosswalks with the appropriate signage.
But some things can't be changed. And the fact is, there's a 0 to 1 foot eastbound shoulder on Souza Road, and that's not going to change. Fair to say?
I don't know.
It's a yes or no answer.
It could be widened, so I would have to say no. I know DOT is going out there and reconstructing Souza Road in the near future, but I don't know what's being proposed.
Okay, let's look at the 1 foot shoulder that currently exists. 0 to 1 foot eastbound shoulder in the case of Souza Road, right? That's from
Correct.
your report.
That's correct.
This is a foot. This is where they're going to be able to walk. Okay? Like this.
I would not recommend somebody walking on the shoulder. We are providing sidewalks in order to get people in and out of the site.
But your report acknowledges the conditions on Souza Road.
But they could very easily, if DOT wanted to go onto this road and build something for pedestrians, they could build a sidewalk that's off that 1 foot shoulder.
But right now, there isn't a sidewalk, nor is one proposed, and you're not going to tell us that it's currently safe for pedestrian traffic on Souza Road, are you?
I do not know if there's one proposed by DOT. I don't know what they're proposing. All I was made aware of is that it is up for reconstruction.
Well, let's go back to that physical application permit at DOT that you talked about earlier. That's PAP 22-63, right?
Do you know the number? That's correct.
No public access to those DOT records. That's also correct?
I think you could get access if need be.
And
I think you got to put a request in.
the physical application permit resulted in DOT wanting more information while it was pending. It's been pending since 2022, I believe. It's being granted now in 2024.
Yeah, there was, and part of that, there was discussions. I mean, not this, throw stones at DOT, but the review process does take a considerable amount of time, and there was some comments that they had that we incorporated into our design. And DOT, quite frankly, came out and said, can you take a look and see if you could put the driveways so they're one's enter and one's exit? And that's what we did.
But no sidewalks, not on Souza Road.
No, there's no ass. I don't know if there's enough development on Souza Road right now for sidewalks on that side.
Okay, still staying with that November 2023 report. I want to stay with these existing conditions, the breakdown lanes and those issues that you track, beginning on page 5 of your report. 5 5-foot northbound shoulder and 4-foot southbound shoulder. This is Main Road at 138. You'd agree with that?
Yeah, yes.
Difficult for cars to pass, or other vehicles for that matter, if a car is stopped on Main Road to turn into the facility. Fair to say?
You have 16 feet. I've seen other locations where it works. So a car can go by there, or they can, wait until the car takes a left turn into the site. But
Typical motor
they can
vehicle.
get around.
Typical motor vehicle could get around.
Sure.
How about a typical SUV with a width of 6, almost 7 feet? Could they get around? Can you tell us with the requisite degree of certainty tonight that an SUV could get around?
Yeah, it could. I think it depends on how the other car is as far as making the turn and where they're set up in the travel lane.
How
But I
about a
think there
fire
is
truck?
width.
How about a fire truck? 8 to 10 feet wide. They're not getting around.
No, I wouldn't anticipate a fire truck would try to get around. I think the cars would be pulled over on the side and they would go down the center of the road, as that's what they typically do.
Same for an ambulance?
Same for an
7 and
ambulance.
8 feet?
Same for an ambulance. The cars pull over and they go by.
How about a school bus? They don't have flashing lights for cars to get out of their way, but they're 8 or 9 feet wide. They wouldn't be able to get around either, would they?
The school bus, it would be tight, but I would anticipate, again, that they would wait for the vehicles to go into the site before moving.
So it's really not just about volumes here. It's also about the flow of the traffic. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm staying with safety analysis, and I need your help with the crash data. Now, your testimony was you went to the town of Tiverton Police Department and you got those records. That's reported crash data only, right? You didn't get any anecdotal evidence, you didn't survey the neighbors, you didn't do any observations, you didn't sit at the site, nothing like that.
We sent a letter to the Tiverton Police Department asking them to provide crash data for Main Road from Souza Road up to Village Road over the last 3 years of available information. They gave us a breakdown of the number of accidents, the type of accidents, was there any injuries, what occurred during the accident. And they gave us that information in regards to those 7 crashes that were reported.
Okay. Now, going down same page, page 11, you do a site distance analysis. This is part of your safety. I want to make sure I understand table 4. The last column has got percent over 35 miles per hour, northbound 62. That means 62% of the cars were speeding?
They're going over 35 miles an hour.
And southbound, 80% of the cars are speeding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
based on data.
Wow.
But again, they could be going, 35 miles an hour, I think you'll find that most people driving on a 35 mile an hour road, if you look down, you could be going a mile to 3 miles over the 35, or whatever it may be. So that's just saying that, people, not everybody's at the speed limit and lower.
Look, the data is the data. Your data says 80% of the people were speeding. Yes.
I am
Okay.
agreeing, that's what the
Okay.
data says,
All
that's
right.
correct, but
Page 12, it's building on this work that you've done in the safety analysis. And this goes to whether there's a breakdown lane, whether the traffic is speeding, and whether now there are adequate sight distances for accidents to be avoided. So you conclude that according to AASHTO, what's that?
it's the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials.
Okay.
It's a manual put out for roadway designs and such.
According to AASHTO, the stopping site and intersection site distances for 45 miles per hour is 360 feet and 500 feet.
Correct.
Yep. That's if people aren't speeding though, right?
This is based on the 85th percentile speed, which is the design speed.
So if
So
people
that
aren't
is, that is
speeding.
that's based on, for example, for people who are driving northbound on Main Road, the 85th percentile speed is 41 miles per hour, which is over the 35 miles per hour speed.
But if people are speeding, given these sight lines, they won't have enough time to stop.
Well, they
Some will, but not all of them.
They could. We looked at typically the design speed in regards to, can you meet the sightline requirements for, we can't go ahead and design this for somebody who's going to drive 80 miles an hour.
But you also,
We got to design it for a safe speed that's occurring out there, and that's the 85th percentile design speed.
okay, thank you. But you also ultimately do conclude that the site doesn't meet the AASHTO minimum requirements for intersection site distance. Page 12, second to the last paragraph.
No, they go ahead, the intersection site distance, the measured site distance, yes, they do go ahead and they meet that. The one that we show that does not meet it is coming out of Souza Road, but that's because the site distance is limited by the intersection. So you can't see beyond the intersection, but people could pull out of there because cars coming down Souza Road from the intersection are taking the turn at a low speed, but a driver can see the cars making that turn, so there's not a concern with that.
That's not what your data says. It says site distance with, let me see the fine print, it's like 8-point type. Values shown assume clearing and tree trimming have been conducted.
Well, that's correct. When we went out there and we did these sight lines, there's, as you know right now, it's overgrown. But we were able to look at the plans and look down with the clearing that they have proposed and just adding the landscaping closer to the paved area, you'll have a clear zone that can look down to the east on Souza Road. So with that site clearing, you can go ahead and meet the site distance requirements.
Seems like a lot of assumptions. Proposed site
Well,
clearing.
no, it's on the plan.
Values
That's
could not be measured in field due to site constraints. I'm reading from Table 6.
correct, because the site right now is overgrown. We don't go out there and clear out a site to go ahead and see what the site distance is. So right now, it's hard to get the measurement, but when you look at a design plan and what's being proposed for the landscaping set back from the roadway, you will have from the stop bar a sight line down Souza Road in order to go ahead and be able to see down Souza Road, which is a very tangent road.
Your client owns the property already, right?
I do not know.
Your client's had engineers on the property, right?
I guess he's done some
But you
testing.
never measured to this day to see what the actual site distances were? Is that a yes or a no?
Well, we have.
Mr. Shevlin?
We have measured it on plans, yes, we have.
For the proposed Souza driveway, due to the existing heavy overgrowth and a chain link fence on the site distances were not able to be properly measured. This is from your report from November of 2023. Have you been to the site since then?
We have, yes.
Did you measure those site
No, it's
distances?
the chain link fence and the growth is still there.
And then you conclude, motorists, and I quote, should be able to see oncoming vehicles and vice versa.
Correct.
Should be.
No, they can. We've done site triangles from the site, and the sight lines are there.
Okay. Just give me one moment, please. So, this is going to be a quote-unquote corner market, right? It's safe to assume that people who come and go from the market are going to have bags because they will have been shopping for something.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. And it's also, I think we might have covered this earlier, possible that they'll either arrive on foot or by bicycle. That's possible.
It's possible.
But your report doesn't say anything about other vehicles that'll be servicing the property, such as delivery trucks. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, I've been through all the testimony for the site layout. You've been provided plans that show the turning radiuses. You've been provided plans in regards to where delivery trucks would be able to go, where they'd be able to park. We did work with the pre-engineering on those, just to go ahead and confer with each other in regards to how they would occur. And, we're satisfied that this will provide safe circulation throughout the site for the delivery trucks.
So how many fuel deliveries did you anticipate there would be each week?
I think there was discussions that occurred before would be a couple to a few a week.
Okay. And those deliveries would be made during the day, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
And number of delivery trucks, there's nothing in your report about that. Was that factored into the safety for the site?
No, the delivery trucks typically will not occur during the periods that we analyze, during the peak hour periods. Usually a store like this would ask them to go ahead and come during the off-peak hours where there's less traffic.
When would the off-peak hours be?
I mean, it's anywhere at times between, say, 9, 10 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. But still during the day?
During the day, which at times you'd have significantly less traffic at the site and also on the roadways.
So you acknowledge that the products that Seasons Market will sell are going to be delivered by truck, right?
I believe for the most part, yes.
But you didn't make any particular analysis about those trucks, the delivery trucks and/or the fuel trucks that'll be coming on and off the site, did you?
No, because as I mentioned, we analyzed the peak hour conditions when we would not expect them to go ahead and be making those deliveries during the peak time conditions.
But you don't know if it's going to add to the traffic on the site. You didn't analyze it.
Well, during the course of when it comes during the day, it's going to be an additional vehicle on the site.
But there's no mention of this in your report.
No, we did not. That was handled by the site engineer in their testimony.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That was handled by the site engineer in their testimony.
Mr. Mayor Shetland, speaking to the mic rather than to who is left.
I'm sorry.
In response.
Sorry.
So, Mr.
Hold on one second. Someone from the audience just asked if the witness could speak into the mic. Just so everyone knows, she's taking everything down, everything that is said in this room on her stenography machine. So you just can't really just shout out because she doesn't know who's talking. She's got to identify the person who's talking. So if you could just be courteous and raise your hand if you have a question or if you have a concern hearing. We just want to make sure the record is clear, but it makes her job a lot more difficult. Thank you for your consideration.
So I just want to stick with trip generation to make sure I understand it. You've got some data in here about, on page 16, the convenience store gas station data. It's fair to say that that was AM peak, the first one.
Yes.
Okay. And the data is generated by the facility's square footage. The type of facility and square footage. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. But there are other ways you could calculate trips other than by just square footage?
You could go by fueling pumps stations as well.
That wasn't done.
I believe that number was higher with the square footage.
But was it presented in your report?
No, but
No.
we looked at that.
But it wasn't presented. Then you got some conclusions and recommendations here.
Where are, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, on page 26 of the November 2023 report. Where you acknowledge, even after all of the modifications that have been made on the site in attempts to control traffic flow, there will be level of service and delay impacts on the roadway.
Yes.
Yes. And you recommend, we discussed it, the tree trimming and clearing to eliminate obstructions.
Correct.
And you conclude that there will be no significant impacts on traffic and safety operations. That's not the same as no impact, is it? You
It's-
qualify it with significant.
No significant in the fact that I don't believe it's going to go ahead and reduce the safety or capacity significantly in the area.
Okay, I want to stay with level of service and go back to the school buses. You didn't make any specific analysis of school bus traffic using Main Road, did you?
We did not have anything in there. We took whatever counts were included when we did the counts, and that's in the traffic stream.
But you didn't observe school bus traffic particularly? You didn't see where the pickup and drop-off points might be, or how many buses were there, et cetera? That wasn't done?
I did not see that.
Right. So if I were to tell you that high school buses traverse the main road, you'd accept that as true?
Potentially, yes.
And if I said that middle school buses also traverse the main road, you'd accept that as true?
Yes.
And that the bus schedules are a matter of public record and available on the town website?
I would say probably yes.
And if I were to suggest that there were at least 4 buses using Main Road in the 40-minute span between 7:18 and 7:58, you wouldn't dispute that? You see where I'm going with this?
I would check it.
Okay.
I would also
7:50
check just to see where the stops are as well.
7:18 to 7:58 is part of that peak traffic time that you did analyze, correct?
It is.
Yes. So if I were to suggest at least 4 buses using Main Road in those 40 minutes, you wouldn't dispute that. You would check it, but you wouldn't outright dispute it.
No, I would check it, and I would check also to see where those stops are.
Okay, check bus number 5. It makes no fewer than 9 stops on Main Road between 7:18 and 7:58. Oh, elementary schools. Do you know, it is a matter of public record, that the Pocasset Elementary School bus uses Main Road?
I did not know that, but I'm not.
Bus number
I'm not
11.
doubting you.
If I were to suggest for the record that bus number 11 traverses Main Road in less than 1/2 hour between 8:04 a.m. and 8:33 a.m., you wouldn't dispute that, would you?
I would check it.
And if I were to finally suggest that that bus 11 from Pocasset Elementary School makes no fewer than 7 stops on Main Road, you would accept that?
I would verify it. That and the locations.
Then you should verify it for the time frame for when you did your studies.
Correct.
Because I'm not making any representation about the current bus schedules, just to be clear.
Yep.
But none of this information of the possible safety impacts to the children of Tiverton were taken into consideration in your study. Is that correct?
It wasn't in there, but I don't see it because buses on the street doesn't make it less safe. I mean, cars will be, if there's buses that are stopping, cars will be queuing behind the buses, which occur now under existing conditions. So it's,
It doesn't make it less safe from a level of service point of view. is what you're saying. It could be a lot less safe for the kids on the bus.
I'm not sure why you consider that. Why would it be less safe for the kids on the bus? Because there's drivers are to stop when a bus stops. Cars behind the buses will stop. So I'm not sure how it would make it less safe for the students.
Okay. Staying on the safety issue and what other vehicles traverse this road, not just the cars that are going to get gas. Within a quarter of a mile is Brookdale Nursing Home. Are you aware of that?
I am.
And did you request any information from the fire department or any other service about how many trips are made to Brookdale each week or month?
I did not.
Didn't get any data on emergency vehicles using Main Road?
No.
No.
I'm not sure how that would impact a development on the site.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure how that would impact a development on this site.
How the use of emergency vehicles on the main road would impact the development?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I just need a minute. I am going to want to use a chalk, some photographs. So I need a minute to set that up.
Sure.
Can
I-
Want to take a 15-minute recess right now?
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we do that?
It's a good time anyway.
I had a question.
Sure, everybody's. Ms. Benson, are you ready?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hey, please keep it down. We're trying to have a meeting here.
Can I ask that question?
So at this point,
That's okay, we'll do it after you.
I have my assistant, Carol Herman, and I'd like to use what I'll characterize, I spoke to the town solicitor about this, as a chalk that I can use to further the testimony of Mr. Shevlin. I have not provided it. I will provide it. But
What's a chalk? I don't.
chalk is like when you have the witness draw the intersection. I saw the car speeding through the intersection. Okay, show us on the chalkboard.
Okay.
I guess I'm showing my age, Madam Chair.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's
I'm
not
past you, so don't worry
it's
about
not
it.
necessarily, all kidding aside, a full exhibit unless and until we make an offer of proof, show its relevance, et cetera.
I
All
mean, if
right?
you're just doing it for purposes of cross-examining the witness, it's demonstrative evidence.
Correct,
Yeah,
as my brother said.
but we do have,
10 days in
Yeah,
advance, and
right.
I will provide it.
We need it for the record no matter what, so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
and do you have a copy for tonight for
I
us?
don't. I just have the electronic. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ms. Herman going to be testifying? No,
She's just going to authenticate it. What is it? How did it come to be? That's all. And then she's going to flip the pages for me.
Well, how can you do that when you're?
You're cross-examination a witness.
Yeah, so you can put on a witness.
Okay, then I'll continue with Mr. Shevlin.
Okay.
If you could just go ahead and just go to slides 16 to start, please. So, Mr. Shevlin, you testified, and in your report indicated that you visited 2 other seasoned sites because they have corner market cafes similar or like what's being proposed for the Tiverton site, correct?
That is correct.
And you did that as part of your traffic analysis.
It was part of the traffic data so we can determine in regards to how much the drive-through lane is used for the, that particular type of coffee shop.
Okay. And it says the stores have the same cafes that are being proposed here for Tiverton, correct?
Correct.
And then that you did counts at the drive-through to understand customer demand and queue lengths encountered at the store's drive-throughs, right?
That is correct.
And the first one that you went to, well, the first one we're showing is Situate, Rhode Island. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you did this yourself, not one of your colleagues?
One of my engineers did this as far as the data collection.
Okay. But you can testify to this as, have you been to this site, Situate?
I've been to the site, correct?
Okay. Did your engineering firm have anything to do with designing this site?
We did not.
Okay. Can you say tonight where the drive-through is located in this plan?
It's on the left side of the building as you look at it, I believe.
Okay. And it would be fair to describe this as, well, you can say, if I were to suggest to you that this is Route 6 in Situate, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And there's 2 travel lanes in each direction, correct?
Yes.
So unlike our current site, the inner lane can be used for turning, correct?
Yes.
All right, so the queuing isn't as critical at this site because there's a safe way for the cars to turn in and out of the facility, fair to say?
Well, the queuing that we did at this site is the queuing that it was occurring in the drive-through lane, because we were looking to see how many cars went into the drive-through lane for the coffee shop and how many cars were typically queue at the coffee shop. So we're looking more in regards to the customer base that was using the drive-through, not the queuing that was occurring on the roadway.
Okay.
That was for information to compare, so we wanted to confirm that our site layout had enough queue space. So based on the type of usage that these coffee shops generate, we wanted to make sure we had enough area in there for queuing of traffic.
So you didn't consider other factors of traffic safety in general when you went to this site visit, comparing the site that's being proposed for Tiverton, such as turning lanes from the road, unlike Tiverton, correct?
No, correct. We went to this site and the Smithfield site to go ahead and take two similar sites to determine how much traffic and customer base there is for the drive-through.
Okay, but you don't dispute that this facility in Situate on Route 6 has very different roadway conditions leading into the facility. Is that fair to say?
It does, and some would say that sometimes with the 2 lanes of traffic, it makes it tougher in order to be able to pull out.
Okay, but
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Please.
you don't dispute that this roadway leading into the Situate facility allows lanes to be used for turning without stopping traffic to wait for that car to turn. That's true, correct?
Could be true, but I think even with this type of setup, when somebody's taking a left turn, you still see cars that will be behind a car that is waiting to turn.
All right. In Tiverton, we have main road, 1 lane, in each direction, right?
Correct.
And here, we have 2 lanes in both directions, plus a breakdown lane, correct?
Correct.
And a turning lane, correct?
You have 2 lanes in each direction with a breakdown lane.
And fair to say, unrestricted sight lines.
From this angle, looking that direction, I would say yes.
No curves, no shrubs?
I can't testify in regards to looking the other direction.
Okay.
We just identify this slide for the record so we can get it,
Yes, this is slide 16.
of how many?
We can go through them from the very beginning. I'd be happy to do
I mean,
that.
are you intend to enter?
No, I'm only going to use 2 right
All
now.
right, so this is slide 16, it's entitled Situate, Rhode Island, 34 Hartford Avenue, 2 travel lanes in each direction. That's what it's entitled?
You can go to 17.
Does it have a number?
Slide 16 and 17, when everyone has their actual photos, you'll be able to identify it just by the number.
Okay. I just don't want the zoning board to get a packet if they didn't actually see the exhibit. So if you're only going to use 16 and 17, I just want you to submit 16 and 17.
I'd like to use all of them.
Okay, you're going to go through all of them today?
No, I'm not.
Well, how can they submit?
I'm doing nothing different than what my brother did, so let the record reflect
No.
that, oh, yes.
No, hold on, let me finish. You're putting things before the board tonight, and they're looking at it on the screen. And each record that your brother put on the board, he identified and it was submitted as a packet. If I'm misunderstanding you, you said you have, how many in this packet?
Yeah, just,
29?
yes.
So unless you're going to show 29 exhibits to this board tonight, the only things that this board should consider are the ones that it's physically looking at now.
Fine, then I'll put it on with a traffic expert if that's how you want it handled.
That's how it's done.
May I continue cross-examining on
Yes,
these?
but I'm just trying to make it clear that that's what, I'm trying to clear up the record, so.
And the record should reflect that my brother introduced exhibits on almost every date that we appeared that weren't necessarily put in the packets in advance.
I'm not making a dispute as to what he put in or didn't put in, but if I understand your testimony, your proffer, you want to put the whole packet to this board tonight without the board physically seeing them tonight, and that would be improper. If you're going to put it before them on the screen and they're going to look at it, then of course put that in the packet. But they can't just put 29 exhibits in where they didn't see it. The record has to reflect what they're actually reviewing here tonight.
Until this colloquy, I had no intention of putting them all in tonight. I just want to cross-examine this witness on this very narrow safety, traffic flow, queuing, on just what he's testified to.
Okay.
And then we can have an overview of what Seasons Corner markets look like all around the state of Rhode Island. The 29 with a witness to introduce it. Would that be okay?
As long as you give us 10 days' notice.
Absolutely. Slide 18, please.
I thought you just was going to use these.
Me too.
So I don't want to belabor the point, Mr. Shevlin, but did you by any chance go to this site as part of the queuing or safety or analysis, or was it a colleague?
We had staff engineers go out there and do the counts during the peak hours. but I have been to the site many times.
Did you design?
What's the number of this exhibit?
This is slide 18.
What was the other one?
And where is the market, the drive-through located in this facility?
I believe it goes around the back of the building as well, similar to what ours is.
And again, the conditions are quite different than Main Road and Tiverton. Is that fair to say?
It is, and quite honestly, I was at the planning board hearing the night that this was being heard. I'm sorry, it was a zoning board hearing. I had a different application, and the town had concerns about the fact that there was 4 lanes of traffic on there with heavy amount of traffic. So they were against it because it was 4 lanes.
You mean the Smithfield?
Smithfield zoning board, correct.
My
Oh.
distinction is to try to have you in your engineering safety hat assess or give us an assessment of whether the 2 lanes on Main Road with little or no breakdown lane is adequate for the flow that's anticipated to go into this market.
And I believe it is, and I have an example of a similar store. It's in Naraya, I believe, type of development up in Cumberland, Rhode Island, on Mendon Road that has the same cross-section for the roadway. It is in the area right off of Route 99. The CVS headquarters is right there. So the morning and afternoon peak hours are there. The size of the building is significantly bigger than what we're proposing. They have 12 pumps on the site. They have a Dunkin' Donuts on the site, and they have a car wash on the site. And there's one driveway that access that site, and that seems to have no safety issues at all and no significant queuing going in and out of the site. So that's an example of a site that, with a 2-lane roadway and a shoulder, it can work.
Is that a Seasons?
It's a Naraya, but it's the same, Seasons is better, but it's a similar type of same convenience store inside, Dunkin' Donuts inside, like I said, all the other amenities I mentioned before. A lot more pumps, bigger store, car wash, Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. So my point is, it can work under both conditions.
I think I'm going to wrap it up. You're not saying that there won't be any impacts by this proposed development. You're saying that there will be no significant impacts. That's your ultimate conclusion. Fair to say?
Yeah, correct. I mean, there's certainly going to be an increase in traffic, so, you may not recognize it to the visible eye, but there will be more traffic there, but I don't think it's going to decrease the safety or the capacity of the roadway.
But in arriving at that conclusion, you didn't give any reference to the town of Tiverton zoning code with regard to specific traffic controls, did you?
Can you provide more information on that?
Does your report cite to our traffic controls, the section of the zoning code that governs what needs to be done to provide for traffic flow on the site?
I believe it does. On the site, I believe it does.
You don't think actually the engineers did that and not Pear?
The pre-engineering did that. And I believe they testified to that.
But you didn't?
We did not do the site layout or the signage, but we did work with the pre as far as the circulation on site, just to take a look at that in regards to ensuring that safe turning radiuses could occur on site for deliveries and vehicles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing further.
I have
George, go ahead.
I have a question. This is going back a little bit because I sometimes go through them. So I tried to just a little statement. So okay. You had stated earlier, and I think Dave asked that question in a different way, that a built as proved, like, a store or a gas station or whatever, will have the same amount of traffic. And I'm sitting over here and saying, 20 years ago, these stations didn't exist. Self-service didn't exist. We were all stores, standalone stores. And the reason self-service existed is because these stores didn't have traffic. They were struggling because they wanted the traffic that a gas station like mine had. So they created that self-service and they used the gas as a loss leader. And the reason I'm saying to you that you're saying Aldi will have the same amount of traffic, I will take you to Aldi and Fall River, and it doesn't. The reasons BJ's and Stop and Shop and now Walmart and Costco and every one of these box stores, you could name all, from Aldi's and up, if they're allowed to put a gas station, they want the traffic that gas station create for people to walk in. So the surgeon in your report to say any box stores will have the same amount of traffic, I disagree with that.
No, I don't believe that's what I stated. I think with the multiple uses, the convenience store with the gas station, I think the more service you provide, you're going to have the opportunity to go ahead and create more traffic. So I think you're going to have some people that will go there just for gas. You'll have some people that go there just for the newspaper, and you may have some that go for both. It's so, but you will have. There is going to be more for that. The thing is the convenience market, which is more than just. People go to the Seasons to pick up a newspaper, do their lottery.
You're showing your age.
Small things. But, like a market is what I was comparing it to, a bigger market where people go ahead and do their shopping and such.
But my point to you, you stated on the record that we could pull an Aldi, it's exactly the name you use, and a liquor store, they will not have the same traffic. Liquor store dying everywhere now to put a gas stations. I mean, we're in the industry. Your expert marketing had to agree with that everybody trying to put pumps in front because the traffic they create. I opened my gas station again, and I didn't have pumps. And the first thing I wanted to do after I came back is to put the pumps on, because that's what brings traffic into your building. So for you to assert in your report that this is the same amount of traffic will happen with another store approved to be built, compared to Season or Cumberland Farm or any of them, I find it incorrect. And actually, I'm making a statement, it's incorrect.
And we're going based on the IT, the Institute of Transportation Engineers chip generation manual that has those type of uses throughout. But, and every site is different, but there are some locations, I'm sure, that if you put in a larger liquor store that, I know there's, one that goes by that the traffic is very heavy in the afternoon, and so it depends on where the location is.
Yeah,
They're not all that successful.
Yeah, I'm sorry. After all, it's Tiverton. We just keep talking, we keep it in here. I'm just saying, if we stick a store there,
Right.
it's not.
Right,
If
but
we're
it
talking about a
is
small
right,
town.
and it is a
Thank you.
use. It is a use based on the trips that are in that industry standard institute. The manual that shows that this is what the trips will be generated.
Thank you.
So.
Do you have any, redirect, you have a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
In the beginning of your testimony, you referred to a state document, and when we were talking about level C and level D requirements. Am I correct in assuming that that document is giving recommendations and not requirements to the various state town organizations?
Yeah, it's recommendations, but it does go ahead and show you in regards to the amount of delays. And I think, quite honestly, I think if you look at some of the capacity analysis that you look at now as far as the amount of delays, I think in most intersections, unless you're somewhere very remote, you're going to have a typical at a signalized intersection or unsignalized intersection delays that could occur anywhere between 30 and 40 seconds. It's typical in regards to what the delays, typically could be, and that's still, acceptable. The big thing is the safety portion.
And is it possible, in this case, to go from a level D to level C delay?
With the unsignalized intersection, the way it operates right now, there's I don't think there's any way you can go ahead and reduce it to make it better there. I don't think you have the right of way on Souza Road to be able to put in turn lanes. To have a right turn lane, a left turn lane, that could help, but I think the right of way is very narrow there, so that, that's really not going to be allowed to go ahead and do that. Or feasible, I should say. Not allowed, anything's possible, but I think feasible right now with the right of way.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So currently, Main Road in that intersection, that area, is at a level C?
It's the movements that are each one. So the worst case for the movements for the future no build and Main Road in Souza during the afternoon peak hour. The eastbound movement coming out of Souza is level service D.
D,
Yeah, and then in the morning, I believe it's level service C in the morning
with no build.
with the no build,
With the
right?
no build. Got it.
And then, as I mentioned, the increase in delay is a matter of seconds that occur with the build conditions.
If I may, just to clarify, that's one turn.
That's just one turn,
Yeah,
right? That's
the whole
worst turn.
intersection isn't graded. Each turn is graded.
I
So
understand.
it's that one turn
Yeah.
that drops down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I follow up when you're done?
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then there was a couple mentions of the 20% COVID increase, but then you guys did a secondary study in June, maybe. If you were to use those June studies, would it bring it back down to a C?
It would be, perhaps, yes.
Okay.
You would have less existing volumes.
Yeah.
So it perhaps could bring it down.
So PAR Engineering used a conservative approach to use the 20% increase, and then they also used a conservative approach to use that, what is it, the manual 10 instead of the 11? So
Yes, for the
potentially,
trips.
if you were to use today's regulations, it would actually be a C instead of a D, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, the level service C, and it's right at like 25 seconds. So I think even with the volume adjustments, I don't know if we would reduce it down, but it may maintain it at level service C.
I hear you. Okay.
So I have a follow-up question to what she asked the first question. I'm sorry, can I say? Is the reason is D right now, the intersection, because of line sight or all the trees and the fences and everything when you did this? Or is it a level D without all?
It's the intersection and the roadway volumes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the sight lines for that doesn't come into play for capacity analysis.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any
No,
redirect?
No, thank you.
Okay. Does that, do you have,
Just a few, Madam Chair.
okay.
Is it Mr. Shelvin?
Shevlin.
Shevlin, thank you. So I was a little confused, I apologize, for that discussion you were having with Attorney Benson about, we know that Souza Road doesn't have any sort of way shoulder. There's no breakdown lane, is that correct?
Souza Road, yeah, it has like a 1 foot curb offset.
Okay. But on West Main Road, there's like 4 feet on one side, 5 on the other.
Main Road,
I'm sorry, Main Road, yes. Main Road has 4 and 5.
yes.
Okay. And there was a discussion about whether or not, for example, a fire engine could get around a car passing on the right, but you said, hey, they don't do that, right? Everyone pulls over and allows the emergency vehicles to go down the gut of the road, so to speak.
I believe that's the law.
The law. That's interesting you say that. Because you were talking about if a car is stopped, trying to turn left into Seasons, heading south down on Main Road, and wants to turn left into Seasons, you talked about how different vehicles could pass around that car. Right? But to do that, they have to pass in the emergency or breakdown lane, correct?
That's correct.
And the law says you can't do that, correct?
No.
No? Okay. Well, let me, because I always thought that. I got a ticket once, so I looked it up. I looked it up because I said, everybody does that, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody does that. So this model that you're proposing that people will be able to pass around them is based on your belief that passing in. So, Rhode Island General Law 3115-16, and everyone should take notice of this because I did get a ticket on this once. Okay? No person shall operate a motor vehicle for travel on the emergency breakdown lane of any highway. Violations of this section are subject to the fines enumerated in 3141.1-4. I know that, but I went to court and I was able to, with my good, driving record, just pay the court fees. So, your assumption about how traffic is going to be traveling down Main Road and people getting around is based on people breaking the law, which you didn't know was a breaking of the law.
I never heard that.
Well, there it is. Okay. So,
But I will say, I see it all the time, and I never, the first one I heard, I got a ticket.
yeah. So I get that people do this. Yeah. All right, now, there was a lot of talk about, whatever, this is going to be developed, and whatever gets developed there is going to create traffic. Yeah. So you did a comparison to an Aldi's or
A market.
a market, okay, and a liquor store, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, now, just out of curiosity, you one of them, I think it was, the market would be a 5,000 square foot store.
That's what our analysis was based on.
Do you have like a site plan? Like, how do you know a 5,000 square foot store could go in there?
Honestly, it was a working session that we did with the PREET, and they were able to go ahead and come up with a square footage and be able to lay that on the site based on the size of the site, parking requirements. We were able to go ahead and lay that out. It was just a working session, didn't formalize any particular layout, but we looked to see could a 5,000 square foot building fit on here, and it could.
Okay. What other kind of uses could go on there?
I mean, we just looked at a couple examples, like you said, a large liquor store and a market. I did not go through every use that possibly could go in there.
Well, I mean, because you're going with markets and you're going with liquor stores, I mean, there's a kind of selective, maybe they have a high traffic footprint. Yeah. Is that, maybe?
Well, yeah, we were just saying that yes, there's certainly going to be something that's going to be developed there, and it's going to generate traffic, and there's a possibility that what's going to be there is going to generate traffic, and it possibly could generate more traffic than what's being proposed.
Except in the morning for liquor stores.
Except for the morning liquor stores.
Which is taken away from people who work third shift, because when they get done with working, right, like after tonight, you might want to have a whiskey. Those folks might want to have a whiskey when they get out of work. Okay, but
I'm not waiting until the morning.
Agreed. So I did happen to look to see what could go in a GC zone, because this is a GC zone, general commercial, yeah?
Correct.
So you could have a specialty retail business, such as an antique store. I don't suspect an antique store is going to be generating much traffic, particularly Monday through Friday, peak hours. Was that probably an accurate statement?
That's correct, and we weren't, like I said, we weren't comparing every type of use that can go there. We're just saying that there are some uses that could go there. We don't know what's going to go there.
Exactly. My point. It's going to be developed, you said, and it's going to generate or create traffic. No matter what goes in there, that's what's going to happen. So I'm just looking at the spectrum, right, of things that could go in there as of right, and what the traffic impacts could be as if it's developed. So you got an antique store, bookstore, and they're kind of dying, but still, bookstore would have some traffic, but not much, I don't think, as compared to a convenience store.
Although I would say a bookstore, there's one up in Plainville that has been developed, and go to that bookstore and see how many people are there. It's the guy who wrote Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and go see how many cars are generated from that site. You can't get a parking space, so that could be a big generator.
Could be, but you didn't do that analysis.
I did not analyze every type of use out there, correct?
Decorative outhouse, furnishing store, specialty food store. Then, of course, package store. They don't call them liquor stores here around. They call them package stores, right? Okay. What else? Personal convenience. Barbershop, shoe repair. I go to a shoe repair, but I don't know how many people go to shoe repair, but I suspect that shoe repair is going to be a lot less traffic than a convenience store. In your estimation as a professional?
I would agree on that,
Okay.
absolutely.
You can have specialty services, printing shop, photo studio, so forth and so on. The reason I'm asking is because just up the road, I think, I forget, Mr. Simpson from TG2, he testified about litter that's associated with it. And I think it's a physical therapy or a gym that's up the road there? Gymnastics school, there you go. Theoretically, a gymnastics school could go here. Did you venture to look at the level of traffic impact that's generated from such as a gymnastics school?
No, as I mentioned, we looked at some examples that could create more traffic out there. We did not look at every potential use.
Right, and I would venture to say that the two that you did select are probably the highest impact. Well, certainly the convenience store was going to be the highest impact, right?
Yeah,
Sure,
one of the
okay.
highest ones, yeah.
Now, my brother mentioned RBSE, E for Edward. That this case stands for that, you know, whatever you can put in there in terms of it, whatever traffic it generates, therefore, we should be able to put the minimum of that. We should be able to equal that. It's kind of what he was saying. Is that why you went to the convenience store, because of that principle?
I didn't have that principle in mind when I looked at that. I was looking in regards to, if this was not built, is there other things out there that could potentially be built that could create more traffic, basically? That was the intent.
But you didn't look at things that could be built that could generate less traffic? Like,
I did not, no.
you weren't asked to do that?
I just did not do that
Okay.
on my own. I just-
So when you are looking at, for example, this working group, Depreet says, yeah, we can put Depreet Engineering being the engineering firm, that
Correct.
we could put a 5,000 square foot convenience store. Did anyone talk about the design standards that are required under the subdivision regulations? Let's see, what are they? Yes, I think it's 2353 maybe. There's a whole set of design standards, right? So not just because you can do something as of right doesn't necessarily mean that you can max out the lot, right? There might be restrictions,
Right. Setbacks and such, sure.
all of that, right?
Sure.
And some of those design standards also allow a planning board to, in their approval process, if you know, to make you reduce the footprint and the activity of your development so that you don't cause adverse impacts.
That's correct. And if we went further in the design, we would certainly go ahead and ensure that we be within the setbacks. But I think preliminarily, we're just looking to see what size building could fit on there.
Right.
So,
Understood. Now, and I think it was possibly maybe a misstatement. You said you did a no build and a build with a 5-year projection, but that actually, what in your report only tells us what's going to happen in 2026.
correct. Our traffic counts were done in 2021, so we extended out 5 years to 2026.
So we're going to end up with, even in 2026, with a pretty bad LOS, level of service, with no build in which is only 2 years from now, right?
Correct.
Right, so we're not talking about a no build in 2030. It's, 2029.
Right. Typically, these studies are done in Rhode Island. When you do your counts and you do your initial study, you expand it out 5 years for future build conditions.
Okay. One other thing I think that was brought up by a member of the zoning board about people, your analysis is based on, in terms of traffic impact, ability to turn, on people complying with arrows, right?
To use the right driveway for entering and exit, yes.
And there's at least an anecdotal story about someone not using it correctly, right?
That's what I heard.
Right.
I've never observed anybody do that.
So is your analysis things are going to be hunky-dory if we have 90% compliance?
I have no history of seeing where anybody has gone in the wrong driveway if it is properly signed and striped.
Well, as attorneys, what we do is properly for our clients is we try to project doomsday, right? So that a client doesn't say, hey, why didn't you warn me about this? Even it's a slim chance that it could happen, because ethically, we can kind of not be doing our job. So my question to you as a professional, wouldn't you take the analysis like, this is going to work even if we have only 10% compliance? Meaning, if there's 90% non-compliance, are we going to have a problem here?
We have a saying that we can't design for idiots. If you have the proper signage out there, the proper marking, and very rarely is it going to happen. We can't go ahead and take the worst case scenario in regards to what's going to happen. Anything could happen out there. Somebody could drive over the grass area. And it's
Sure.
So it's, at what point do you stop? You say, this site design is not proper and it's gonna cause problems. I mean,
Well-
it's common to have an enter and exit movement at a site like this.
Sure, I understand. I guess I'm just kind of like wondering, like, along that spectrum of, you're saying that just about everyone's going to comply to hyperbole, which is like 99% aren't. Somewhere along that spectrum, you might say, look, problems are going to begin to happen as we lose compliance. But you kind of didn't do that analysis.
I don't know how I could do an analysis of how many people may take the wrong turn into an exit driveway.
Okay.
I don't think it's possible to do an analysis like that, and I don't think you'll ever find any data that shows that. And I don't think it'd be 99%, it'd probably be 99.99999%. I don't think it happens as much as you're stating.
I'm not,
If at all.
just to be clear, right, I'm kind of giving you the spectrum of possibilities. You're, on one end, you're saying you're going to get near 100% compliance, and I just wanted to see, what happens as you move away from that 100% compliance, what potential traffic impacts might occur when you have an anecdotal story of someone driving over a sign into the wrong way. I just did it the other day on accident. So no. But my point being is that there's purposeful noncompliance, there's accidental noncompliance. You're coming down south on Main Road, and you've got you're supposed to go into the southern entrance, because that's the way you enter, but it's all backed up. And hey, I'm sitting right in front of that exit, and I'm just gonna go in, because I'm late for work and I want my coffee. Is that a possibility?
It'd be very rare. I would not do it. If I see a roadway or a driveway that says do not enter and has an arrows on there and cars are coming out there, I wouldn't take that chance to go ahead and take a left turn and an exit movement.
And that's
I don't know a lot of people who would, but maybe it's the people I hang out with.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if you observe, yes, I get it. Okay. Now
I think it's a stretch.
Yeah. So you got this sidewalk. I don't know, where is it going to? Where's it coming from? What was that sidewalk? You say you're building a sidewalk. Where is it going to? Where's it going from?
There's a sidewalk that's on the west side of Main Road.
Mm-hmm.
There's a crosswalk that's being put in at the intersection, and then the sidewalk continues to the landscape area. Then it's the gray area, then it follows along the edge of the pavement. There's another crosswalk by the Souza Road entrance, and then you see it continues a little bit beyond that. And then there's another crosswalk to get over to the store.
Okay, so people who live along Souza Road, they're going to have I know my sister showed you the 1 foot. It's going to be difficult to be walking on that road, more or less.
I would not recommend anybody to walk on that road. I think we testified at previous meetings that the applicant has stated that they would consider, if it was brought up, to put a sidewalk along their property, along Souza Road. But then it's going to get to the point where you're going to be at the back of their property. Where do you go from there?
Okay, so people are...
I don't believe you're asking the applicant to go ahead and put a sidewalk down the whole length of Souza Road.
Well, I do know that the intersection of Route 5 and 113 in Warwick, my neighborhood, where there's a Colbia, a Seasons facility there, that entire intersection was redeveloped by Capianato. Turning lanes, all sorts of things to make that intersection so it's not out of the realm, because in the standard designs, the developer can be responsible for doing improvements, off-site improvements, if deemed necessary to make, because their project is creating an adverse impact. So I'm not suggesting that that's what this board wants to do, but it's not out of the realm for a community, municipality approving a project to require the developer to put in what they call infrastructure improvements occasioned by their activity.
And if, in regards to the sidewalk, I think, as I mentioned, that's been talked about at previous meetings, and I think the applicant stated that if it was desired along Souza Road on their property, they would go ahead and consider doing that.
Okay. Just a couple more questions, and I'll be out of your hair here. Oh, yes. This has been brought up actually by a resident, a witness testimony, a witness, if you will, a resident layperson. You see when you're coming westbound on Souza Road, right? And you want to get coffee. You turn right, okay? But now there's already several cars queued up in the inside lane, because that's where you're going to do your ordering and pickup, right?
Correct.
What's going to prevent folks from, okay, well, just in a second, that car's going to move up. I'll sit right there in that entrance, right on Souza Road. And what prevents someone coming down Souza Road and says, geez, you know, before you know it, you could have cars queued up along Souza Road trying to turn into, to get their, well, gas and or coffee in the morning.
And that goes back to the additional counts that we did at the existing corner stores, cafes, at the Situate and Smithfield stores to see how much traffic this type of coffee shop generates. We found the maximum queue to be in the morning, 5 cars. We have enough queuing on this site to accommodate, before you get near that driveway, of 10 cars.
I'm sorry, when you say near the driveway, in which way?
As you're, where the crosswalk is, in that area. So from where you're picking up the coffee or donut, whatever it may be, to where that crosswalk is, in that vicinity, there's enough area in there to go ahead and accommodate 10 cars in a queuing fashion.
Okay, so we're looking at this site picture here. On the back side of the building, there's, I don't know, sort of a gray rectangle right up against the building. Is that where you pick up the food?
That's the order. You
That's-
pick up the food
around,
on
okay.
the north side.
So from the place of ordering all the way to the entrance of where the travel lane at Souza, where that, how many cars does that fit?
Estimating there's probably 5 or 6 in there, I would think.
Okay.
At least 6.
So, but you said 10. That's 10 if people come in off a main road, they can start queuing. Oh, can they? I don't think you're supposed to do that. Oh, I guess you could. You can come around, so you could fit cars as you're coming off a main road. They can queue along that vegetated, right where the sidewalk is, and wait to queue to get into the drive-through. Is that the 10 you're talking about?
No, I'm talking the 10 from where the car is on the north side of the building, all the way around that lane to where the arrows are.
Yeah, if you could.
I can't even see this. Is it up there?
No, it's over here. There you go. You're almost there. You're to the left.
I can't. I'm colorblind.
There you go. There you go. Oh.
Yeah, you feel it. Reds
you
and greens
use the
get me,
mouse.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, the mouse.
So from there, all the way to there, you can get 10 cars.
Yes,
Okay, I'm talking about from the order window. How many cars from there?
7.
7. And you're saying that if there's any more than 7, where do they queue? Onto Souza Road?
No, they would go ahead, there's signs in there for do not block the intersection, so they would stop on the other side, allow cars in if it ever got to that point.
So they don't want you crossing you're going to have a sign, don't block the pedestrian intersection. So a car theoretically could be sitting right there in that entrance. I guess it'd be to the south of the crosswalk. But my concern is what you're saying tonight is there's not going to be a scenario wherein cars are coming westbound on Souza, trying to turn in to get whatever they want from this facility, that they're not going to be queued up along Souza Road.
I don't believe they will be, based on the information that we have and based on the amount of business and cars that pick up their coffee and donuts from this type of market. And from what I observed at other stores, they do not queue this much. There's just, it doesn't have that type of customer base.
Okay. And just to be clear then, because I'm sure this is probably either an observation as a motorist or as a profession, have you ever seen vehicles queued up on a highway trying to get into, let's say, Dunkin' Donuts at 7:30 in the morning?
At Dunkin' Donuts, I have.
Okay, and what's this going to be?
It's their brand. It's Corner Cafe. It's called Corner. Yeah, Corner
Not Dunkin' Donuts.
It's not Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, so presumably the corner cafe coffee is less desirable than the Dunkin' Donuts, and therefore it's the Dunkin' Donuts that causes those queues, but not this coffee place.
I don't know the reason. I'm just going based on in regards to their customer base.
What's up in Smithfield?
Same thing. The same thing that we're
Situate.
having here. Same thing we're having here.
Okay. But your opinion is that you have seen cars queued up on highways, but not when they've got corner cafes.
Yeah, I
Or-
think there's been a few that you read stories about Dunkin' Donuts in certain locations. But I know even to meet the DOT requirements, they require you to have a 10-car stacking lane, 4 cars and drive-throughs, and we meet that here.
So, in this scenario here, traffic is driving away, but people could come in, get their gas. After they get their gas, start turning towards to get their coffee, right?
They could get their gas, they could go online and get their coffee, or they can walk into the store to get their coffee.
But it's cold, maybe they just want to get in their car, they want to make a phone call for whatever reason. They get their gas at the pump at the, I don't know, we'll call it, that's the northernmost point, right? They get their gas, right? Now they're done, now they want to get their coffee, right? And then they take a right, so that they then could take a left to go around the building. So cars could be queued up there in front, blocking people's ability to get out of pumps. Is that possible?
No, is it possible? It's possible, but I don't see that happening. That's a pretty significant queue for this type. And like I said, that's why we went to the other stores to see what kind of customer base they have and how much queuing they have. They do not have it, so it extends to 15, 20 cars.
Would it surprise you that the Seasons Market that I go to almost every day for something in Warwick, but has a Dunkin' Donuts, that is exactly what happens? Would that surprise you if that was the case?
At a Dunkin' Donuts, a lot of people like Dunkin' Donuts, but I don't know.
It's a Seasons Market.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the corner cafe, the less desirable coffee. It has a Dunkin' Donuts, and that traffic condition exists. So I guess there's nothing that pigeonholes this project being into a corner cafe. It could be corner cafe today, but it could be Dunkin' Donuts tomorrow.
That I will let the applicant answer that. I don't know if he can or not. I'd have to let the applicant answer that. I don't know what the plans would be, but.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Shevlin.
Yes.
Okay, now, if any member of the public has any questions for this witness, you can come up. This is not an opportunity to argue or to give your opinion about something, but you're certainly welcome to ask the witness questions.
John Reed, Riverside Drive.
Spell that, Reed. Please spell your last name, please.
Pardon?
Spell your last name, please.
R-E-E-D.
Thank you.
Sir, I think I heard you at the outset testify about the traffic that would be generated by uses that were permitted as of right, correct?
That's correct.
And that you testified that there would be additional traffic generated by uses that were permitted as of right.
There could be.
And some of that traffic would be greater than the amount of traffic, additional traffic generated by this proposal.
It could be.
And you use for comparison a convenience store
Convenience store / market.
and, for example, an Aldi's.
Something along that lines, perhaps.
And that was because additional traffic that wasn't pass-by traffic would go to those stores, correct?
That's part of it. I think it would generate more traffic, and I think it would have less pass-bys based on the usage.
So there would be more additional cars on the road itself with some of these uses that were permitted as of right.
That's correct.
But I didn't hear you say that there would be more traffic turning into those establishments than there would be traffic turning into this establishment.
No, it would be both. There would be more traffic going in and out of the site as well. The overall trips would be higher, and so there'd be more in there, and there'd be less pass-by trips. So there'd be more traffic, and there potentially could be more traffic going in and out of the site.
It's fair to say that there would be more traffic going into this convenience store, coffee drive-in, gas station, turning in, whether it was pass-by or whatever, than into those uses that are permitted as of right.
No, I think for the market, there could be more overall traffic on the site and more traffic going in and out of the site. There are some uses that would have more turning traffic and more traffic added into the traffic stream.
So you think that with the gas station and the drive-through and the market, well, let me rephrase that. Let's focus then on the hours between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You're not going to suggest that an Aldi's or a liquor store or a convenience store would have more traffic, wherever it came from, turning onto the premises than this establishment would have.
I think in the afternoon, you could. Based on data that we have, that shows the trip generations for different types of uses, in the afternoon, you could, depending on the size of the size of development, what it's going to be.
This is
There
your
are some
prime
uses.
time in the evening, coming home, right?
And I think a market is a prime time for people to go ahead and pick up their groceries on the way home from work as well.
How about at between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning when the school buses are out? Do you know many people around here go do their market between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the market when the school buses are going up and down?
I think depending on the use in the market, it could be.
I think it depends on a lot of things, but it's fair to say there's a good chance there's going to be more people turning into that establishment than turning into a liquor store or a convenience store between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., isn't it?
Going by the data that we have, when you look at it, it doesn't indicate that if you look at the land use code for the market.
Well, I'm sure others who have read more than I have read will read carefully and see whether there's any data to support that conclusion, because it seems contrary to common sense. But moving on, isn't it, quite aside from traffic or no traffic, that the thing that presents danger to drivers is accentuated when there are turns?
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Well, I find when I'm driving along and the person in front of me is driving along and the person behind me is driving along, everything's pretty good.
Well, but you see a lot of the accidents that you see or crashes that you see a lot of times are when somebody goes in and stops at an intersection, and then somebody's from
Precisely.
behind.
Exactly. When somebody makes a turn at an intersection, stops at an intersection to make a turn, is when they get rear-ended or the people behind them rear-end them, correct?
But not always the case.
Not always the case, but have you seen those accidents?
Sure, you see them at intersections
And the
when people
more-
start and when they stop and whatever. That's
more
driver habit.
The more turns that are generated at that intersection, the more danger there is of rear-end collisions, whether the person in the front is at fault or the person behind is at fault.
I think it's based on driver operations.
Pardon?
I think it's based on driver operations.
Excuse me, you didn't hear the question. If there are more turns at that intersection, then there are more risks of accidents being rear-ended. Yes or no?
It's hard to say. I mean, you have an intersection as Souza Road and Main Road that handles all the traffic there. There's turns, and we only had over a 3-year period. I believe there was 3 crashes there.
Yes, and how many people turn left down Souza Road between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., and how many people do the people for whom you are paid, and by whom you are paid, going to turn left when that establishment is there?
I think there's more that are taking a left down Souza Road, but I'd have to verify that.
Uh-huh. There's certainly going to be more now, though, right?
Not necessarily.
You mean after this successful business is put there, there aren't going to be more left-hand turns made at the bottom of Main Road there than there are now?
I can see a lot of cars going in and using the main entrance on Main Road to get in and out of the site.
I'm talking about coming down Main Road. There are going to be more people taking left turns than there are making left turns now.
Into the site or into
Yes.
Souza Road? I'd have to verify. I don't have that number on the top of my head, but I'm not certain on that.
Well, I presume the people who have employed you are hoping people are going to come down Main Road and turn left, aren't they?
I can verify in regards to the difference and have the answer for you.
Are you
but
getting paid for your testimony?
What difference does that make?
It means I'm asking whether you are getting paid to testify tonight.
Like, yeah, I am.
Can you share with us how much?
No.
Well, I'm asking you, would you? Because I think it might be relevant to the fact finders.
I don't know if I need to share that. I mean, I don't think
All
it's
right.
relevant. I don't think it's relevant.
Then I'll take it that you don't want us to know.
I don't. Well, I guess I will like to answer that on the fact that I am a professional engineer that has a stamp, and I am not going to go ahead and risk my stamp for my professionalism that I've had, and go ahead and do something because I'm getting paid by a client. So to answer your question, no, I do not go ahead and take into account the amount of payment I get in order to go ahead and testify in front of the board.
You don't think people should know whether you're getting $50 an hour or $500 an hour?
It's not $500 an hour, I'll tell you that.
One last thing as regard to people stopping on Main Road and making left turns, whether they make any left turns into this establishment or not. I assume they're intended to. Main Road is a hill there, isn't it?
Slight.
Slight?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't increased, but yeah, I mean,
Your
it's a
testimony
grade.
about people speeding and not speeding was significantly more speeding coming down the hill than going up the hill, wasn't it?
It was, the numbers, I think they were a little higher coming south, yeah.
A little higher. So in any event, the danger of all these left turns coming down Main Road must be accentuated to some extent by the fact that it's right at the bottom of a hill.
I don't know if I would consider that a significant hill.
I'm sorry, you can't say that. Thank you.
Steve Money, 1049 Main Road. If everybody look at the picture there, see the exit on Main Road? Look directly across the street. That's my driveway. How many weeks is school in session in a year? 38, right? But you didn't account for school buses at all?
We did not have school buses. The school buses were, if they occurred during the peak hours we did counts, they are in our data as far as being in there.
Where's my son's bus stop?
That I
Right
do
in
not
front of
know.
your exit there.
Okay.
Now, your sidewalk there. Your signs have blown in my yard, and for me to take them across the street, I gotta wait till later at night so I don't get hit, because cars are flying down that street. To have a crosswalk there, you're gonna need a traffic light or a stop sign. Did you ever factor that in?
Did not.
Have you tried to cross that road?
I did not.
Have you tried to come out of the boathouse and take a left? It's crazy.
I don't know if I have or not.
I come out of my
may have.
driveway, and people coming southbound are just flying down. I have to dart out every time. And any of you want to stop in my driveway and just sit there and watch traffic anytime you want, feel free. Takes me forever to get out of my driveway, but this is not going to affect me. 90 extra cars with school buses? That's not a quality of life issue? It is. Your traffic study is flawed. That's all I have to say.
Sir, could you spell your last name for me, please?
M-O-H-N-Y.
Thank you.
Hi, pardon me. Dan Darren, 1542 Main Road.
Last name again?
Delta Echo, Romeo Echo, November, D-E-R-E-N.
Easy to just spell it.
Well, 49 years ago, when my wife was nice enough to marry me, she had a long Sicilian-Italian name, and even the Sicilians and the Italians couldn't spell or pronounce. So she thought 5 letters, but nobody can spell or pronounce Darren, even if I tell them multiple times how to do it. So she didn't get such a deal that way, but the rest of the story is her people are Sicilian, Italian. They got all the vowels. My people were Polish, so we got all the consonants. So it's a match made in heaven. Anyway, and thank you for listening to me on that.
You're gonna have to speak a lot slower.
I'm sorry?
You're gonna have to speak a lot
Oh,
slower.
pardon me. So 1542 Main Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island, 02878-4417. Earth Solar System, Kuiper Belt, Oort Cloud, Orion Arm. I'll dispense with that, never mind. Milky Way Galaxy. It doesn't matter. I'm not a professional engineer. I did study 50 some odd years ago queuing theory, network theory, linear, nonlinear programming, optimization, operations research at a technical institute that just happens to sit on the bank of the Charles, whose mascot is the beaver, because the beaver is nature's engineer. So I had a few questions, and it was interesting that you talked about average waiting times and average this was going to increase by a second or two, average that. It reminds me, I was teaching a math class today as a substitute teacher, and I understood that someone said that class was average, and I said, that's really mean.
Could you ask a question?
Yeah, I do. So it sounds like what you're providing is a static analysis. Is traffic arrival at that intersection, it's not normal. Is that a Poisson distribution, for instance?
Is it what?
Poisson, Poisson, Latin for fish. Poisson. And Italian's pescatore, whatever. Is that a Poisson distribution, for example?
I am unfamiliar with that type of distribution.
It happens to be the kind of distribution that talks to queuing theory. People arriving at an intersection, people coming.
I'm sorry, what theory?
I'm sorry?
What theory?
Queuing, Queuing.
You're going to have to just slow down. Can you slow down just for?
Absolutely,
You're
sorry.
using a lot of technical terms, a lot of MIT terms that we're not familiar with. So, and she's got to write it. So just slow down and.
Absolutely. I'm not as technical as I used to be, and that was 50 years ago. So there's a little bit of rust on the hull. I did find it interesting that you talked about someone who, at that time of the night, I don't know, midnight, 11 o'clock at night, whatever, they ran out of gas. And you mentioned anecdotally that they would get the gas tank, get the gas can, put the gas can in their car, drive to the service station. But that wouldn't happen, would it? If they ran out of gas, they'd be taking a gas can, they'd be walking to the gas station, would they not?
No, my example was somebody who was who was cutting their lawn.
Oh, I
And
see.
they ran out of gas, so they took the gas can, made a trip to
Okay.
go get gas.
Okay, and presumably loaded it correctly. I think your clients, I think town of Tiverton needs a much better sense of what is going on, and statistically and from networking and queuing theory. Poisson distribution, Poisson, talks to how people, entities want to be served and how they arrive at a queue. And I found it interesting that you mentioned, oh, it's only going to be a second here, a minute there. Under the right circumstances, or perhaps the wrong circumstances, if you can't clear your queue by, say, 1/10 of a second faster than people are arriving, then you've got an infinite queue. And it wouldn't take that long to make, at that intersection, essentially an infinite queue. That is a very complex intersection. It doesn't look like it. There are horrible sight lines on either side. There's no shoulder. There's no sidewalks to speak of. I mean, I've walked that distance.
This is your opportunity to ask a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a tough corner. Let me see if I can find my questions. Presumably your client's done demographics, and presumably that site would not support a Starbucks or a McDonald's because they would have been here already. So presumably you have different demographics. Gas is a loss leader. Your client's going to be getting revenue much more from what's inside than the gas itself.
Is there a question pending?
Well, let me try again.
Because if you want to do this type of dialogue, you can do it at a different time of the proceeding.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can, and I'll be quick. May I ask, when was it that you mentioned the last time you did the traffic study was November of 2023?
The last traffic study that we submitted was dated November 2023.
November is an odd choice because I live on Main Road, right next to St. Christopher's. And in the wintertime and after 8 or 9 o'clock, Tiverton rolls up its sidewalks, and there's very little going on. So,
I'm sorry. That's me. That's when we submitted the report.
Okay.
We did our counts in the summertime.
Right. If you lived where I live, would you expect traffic to be a whole lot different in the summertime rather than November?
I'm not exactly sure where you live, but I would assume down in Tiverton, traffic probably is higher in the summertime.
It got quite a bit higher. So I presume you adjusted for that somehow?
We did our counts in June.
Okay.
Late June is when we did the counts.
Okay. And you quoted an average. Is that a normal distribution?
I'm sorry?
You quoted an average. You said, on average, there are so many traffic stops. There are traffic trips. On average, there would be so many more.
Yeah.
From whence do you derive that average? Is that a normal distribution? What is the standard deviation?
That goes back to the trip generation manual that develops the amount of trips that occur during a peak hour.
Okay.
So it tells you how many total trips over the course of that hour developed. Then the software package that you use does the analysis based on that hour and the volumes over that hour.
But you can't talk to me about what's under the covers in that black box, if you will.
What's under
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, I said he cannot, I'm asking this a question. I'm presuming he cannot talk to what is going on in the black box of that software underneath the covers, because he doesn't know, I believe. Is that correct? You're accepting this piece of software, or this generator of some kind of data that leads you to the conclusion that it's not going to be any big deal. But as they've said, you would agree, wouldn't you, from a queuing or a networking theory, that if your processing time is infinitesimally less than your arrival time, your queue will run to infinity, which means that's going to be, that's a bottleneck, is what that intersection is. And as a matter of fact, that entire road is not just a road, it's not just a little country road, it's an artery. And that artery comes from Fall River all the way down. So it's these.
Sir,
Okay.
you're not sworn as a witness, and you're giving testimony, and that's not permitted.
I apologize, and I'll wind up. I will say that, if I might,
You can ask.
are you expecting a different kind of customer between 9 and midnight than you are earlier in the day? Because I noticed you've focused on rush hour or whatever you might call it.
A different kind of customer in regards to.
Well, from
somebody
a
who's
traffic
gonna-
standpoint.
Yeah, I'm sure at night you're gonna have some people that come for gas, some people are gonna go in and get some milk.
Okay.
I mean, could be I don't expect a different type of customer.
Some people go flying up and down that road at high speed after dark. But anyway, I'll wind up, and I apologize. Abe Lincoln once said that.
No.
No, and you can't conclude with that.
No, you can ask a question.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Abe Lincoln saying that if a man approaches you with the idea that he's going to do something good for you, you should run like hell in the other direction? I wondered if you heard that.
Do I have to answer that?
Anyway,
I have not.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
That's amazing. I think we're all slap happy.
Jen Fernandez, 1049 Main Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island. I was wondering if you could tell me, based on your study, my driveway is directly across from your exit. Based on your study, how long would it take me to get out of my driveway?
I mean, that would depend on whether you're taking a right turn or left turn, you know,
Both.
how often you're
Right,
going in and out of there.
left.
I mean, a right, I mean, is pretty much I wouldn't say a free movement, but it'd be certainly easier because you're going across one lane. But I could go ahead and analyze it for the one car that may come out an hour. I don't think it's going to be, I can answer, we did delay studies at the Souza Road intersection, because I think at the planning board meeting, there was comments from the public in regards to somebody stating that they had to wait 15 minutes to go ahead and pull out of their roadway or their driveway. We went to Souza Road and did a delay study back early on in the study, and I think for the most part, and I don't have it with me, but I think the average delay was about 25 seconds. And I think there was a one time where there was a delay to pull out of there about 1 minute and 10 seconds, but that was one occasion. But all the others that we looked at were somewhere between 10 seconds and probably 35, 40. But that is a letter and data collection that we did do previously.
How do you think that taking a right out of my driveway and somebody taking a right out of your facility is easier for me? And doesn't cause an issue? Because now they're taking a right and then there's traffic that, the flow of traffic on Main Road really doesn't stop. So now somebody's coming down and somebody wants to take a right, I want to take a right.
It's unclear to me which driveway. Maybe can you, do
sec-
you mind if I,
Well,
Madam Chair? I just want to okay.
Where the exit sign is, go across, from the exit, go,
Same as his house.
Is this your driveway?
nope, the one up.
This is your.
Yes. So
Oh,
when you,
the same as the previous gentleman.
yes, so when you leave there and you take a right or a left, basically, that is an issue for me, because anybody leaving your facility, anytime I want to leave my driveway, my son wants to be at the bus stop, is an issue. And I say this because you did a traffic study, and I don't know when you requested those accidents, but there was an accident involving a bus where I heard the impact, and my heart stopped because I thought my son was on that bus, and luckily he received a ride home that day and wasn't on that bus. So I don't know how you come up with these scenarios, and then you say that you can pass, but what is the total width of Main Road for cars to pass on these directions, and what is the width of each lane? Because I live there and I drive an SUV, and anybody that stops, or if there's a deer in the road, there is no getting around it. There's not enough room to maneuver those lanes with going around anybody, and anybody who attempts to do that with your traffic going in the facility and out the facility is just going to create more accidents at that area. I don't know how you don't foresee that as being an issue for anybody that lives on that road. And that includes the people that live behind me in the boathouse, the driveway in front of me, the driveway where I'm at, and my other neighbor above that. That is a huge problem with people entering that facility and coming out. And I don't know how you can say 25 seconds. I lived there for 4 years. I've never got out of my driveway in 25 seconds. Never. I don't know how you did that traffic study, and I don't know how you requested the accidents and have no record of any children or any buses, because there was a bus that was involved in an accident, but yet that's omitted from your report. And I find this disturbing because we are entering a time where the technology is supposed to stop accidents, and at some point, people have to answer difficult questions, because then you end up into the situation like the Washington Bridge, and it's like, because I've heard you tonight say, I think, they should, they could, and then you have incidents where there's accidents, and I hate to bring it, but this is why Rhode Island has the George Washington Bridge, because people do this
I'm
stuff.
sorry. You have an opportunity at a later time in these hearings to testify, and the testimony, I assure you, will be valuable to this board.
Well, I
But
did
this
ask
is-
a question,
this
but
is not the
he's not
time.
answering accurately, that you cannot get in and out of that
No, no,
driveway in
excuse-
25
excuse me.
seconds. And he doesn't know the
Excuse me.
width of Main Road, but
If
he's an
you-
engineer?
Ask a question, but do not testify. You are not under oath.
That is the question. How long is it to get out of the driveway? 25 seconds is false.
Madam Chair, if we may, at least give Mr. Shevlin an opportunity to answer the question.
I haven't even heard the question.
So I think the question was, the first question was, how did you gather the accident records?
The accident
Remind-
records,
remind-
yes. So when we started the study back in 2021, we submitted a letter, which I believe I have a copy of, to the Tiverton Police Department, asking them to provide the latest 3 years of crash data that was available So we can go ahead and analyze that. So we got crash data from the years 2018 through 2020, because that was the most recent available information when we asked for it when we did the original study.
2020 during COVID when nobody was driving?
It was at the end, it went from 2018 to the end of 2020.
Okay.
So we had 2 years, 2.5 years almost, and then COVID did come. And the width of the road is 12-foot lanes, and there's, between the two shoulders, there's 9 feet. So 24 and 9, 33 feet wide. Some areas is a little bit wider. But the areas that we measured out there, that was a typical width.
And the third question was your delay study. Could you repeat how you did your delay study?
Yeah, we based on the volumes that we have coming out of the site and the volumes that we counted on the roadways, we use software package that's used industry-wide in order to determine what the delay study for coming out of the site. So the capacity analysis showed that based on the volumes on Main Road and the volumes coming out of the site, that the delay during the AM peak hour coming out of the site is 34.8 seconds coming out of the site.
But you told me I could get out in 25, but now you're saying 38?
I don't recall saying you could get out in 25.
I thought that that's what you did say. So my other question is, your facility sells rolling papers for people to smoke cannabis?
He's a traffic expert. He's not testifying as to what they sell or not. That's for another
Okay.
witness.
Is there an increase in accidents according to the DOT because of cannabis?
I don't have that information available if there is, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to track that. I am unaware of there being any information in regards to the number of crashes that are occurring because of
The
cannabis.
DOT did put it out.
Okay, I can.
It's
I
more
can
than
look at that.
double. That's all.
Carol Herman. I live at 1106 Main Road. And I have a question about traffic on Souza Road stopped at the stop sign to turn onto Main. So I live 300 feet south of this site. I avoid taking Souza Road when I have to turn left to go south on Main, because it takes a long time under current conditions, certainly in the morning or in the afternoon. You have to wait a long time to turn left onto Main if you're sitting at Souza. I wonder if you've considered the impact of cars that are lined up, of course, single file, on Souza. The car at the top wants to turn left. The next 3 or 4 cars want to turn right. Now they're stuck in the current conditions of the lot. However, you've got a nice entrance for them. Have you considered the impact of drivers who will take a shortcut through your lot to turn right onto Main? And I ask this because it's a very real problem in another part of Tiverton where we have a traffic rotary and cars constantly cut through a parking lot of a small shopping center at high rates of speed. So how would you prevent cars from using your lot as a cut-through to turn right onto Main instead of waiting behind a car that wants to turn left?
I mean, I think the delays that you're going to have to take a right turn onto Souza Road is.
No, you're on Souza Road.
Taking a right turn from Souza Road onto Main Road.
That's right, and you're stuck behind somebody who's waiting 3 minutes to turn left onto Main Road.
Yep, but I think time-wise, when somebody needs to take that right turn, I think by the time they went through the site, I think the timing is going to be probably more to go through the site in order to take that right turn, so.
Oh, you don't think people will do it?
I can't say that. I don't know if anybody's going to do that, but again, we're looking at worst-case scenario. I mean, would somebody do it?
They'll do it regularly. They do it at the Rotary.
Hello, I'm Jamie French, and I live at Craig Avenue. My question is, when this project began several years ago, this was a commercial highway gas station that was going to have large numbers of traffic. The traffic numbers at the time were just immense. There was cars coming in and out every minute or two. There was immense numbers. And we were told that we needed these immense numbers in order for there to be a payback. And what has changed to make this gas station go from a high number project to a low number project?
So I have a question for you. So you're making a statement that this was a high volume. Before, where was that testimony? Because I'm not aware of any of that testimony. This was always before the planning board. When the planning board denied the master plan, there was talk about a traffic study. They actually had the applicant do a follow-up study because they weren't satisfied with the original. So where is this testimony coming from? This was going to be a high-volume gas station?
It was the original planning board meetings of the project, that the project was going to be a high-volume, high-number project. And that was the first year of the project.
I'm not aware of that. I don't know if Mr. Stoltzman might have to add to that, but I don't remember that testimony before the planning board at all.
Right.
And we have the transcripts.
Okay. It was at the initial meetings.
We have the transcripts, and we've read them because there's an appeal of that decision, and I don't remember any testimony regarding the volume. This was a high-volume gas station. The testimony is based upon the traffic study that has now been updated. So nothing in the record reflects your characterization of what you believe this to be.
Okay, thank you. I'm still confused on the number of pumps as well, where is it 4 pumps to service 8 cars or 8 pumps to service 16 cars?
There's 8 vehicle fueling positions, so there'll be 8 areas where you can go ahead and get gasoline.
So there's 4 pumps with 2.
4 dispensaries, 1 on each side.
So there's a total of 8 vehicles that can be.
That's correct.
And, you know, the way that the traffic moved around the building to the drive-in, am I correct that they come in and then they has to cross in front of the building to go around to the, so it's crisscrossing? So you come in off of Main and you go around the pumps, and then you have to turn in front of the building and head north, and then you head east to head south to head west?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, that's originally how I thought it was. And then
That
when,
was Mr. Stoltzman. He said the circulation was where the dot is.
okay.
And then I proceeded from east to west around the back of the building.
And then out. And so if someone were,
Yes, west to east.
okay, that would make more sense. And I was confused on that factor. But, so someone who was coming would be able to exit off of Souza, right? Still,
Yes.
after they went around to the drive-in?
That's correct. They could come out here.
And that shouldn't be much of a problem, you think?
Mr. Shevlin, do you find any hindrance in traffic movement from the site to Souza Road?
I do not.
So what was your total trips? I'm sure you said this. What was your total trips a day now?
You have to ask the witness.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The total trips for the site?
Yeah, per day?
Well, we analyzed the peak hour conditions.
But not throughout the entire day?
No, because we only looked at the 2 worst conditions of the day to analyze.
Right.
So
Because people in Tiverton really like to get coffee a lot.
yeah. So in the morning, there's going to be 91 trips that are going to be entering and 89 exiting. And then in the afternoon, it's going to be 95 entering, 96 exiting.
Can you say that again?
In the morning, 91 entering, 89 exiting. And in the afternoon, 95 entering, 96 exiting.
Why are there different numbers entering and exiting? Is there kind of a portal there? Or? something?
It's just one, it's like one vehicle, it's just, the formula comes out to a odd number, so one of them has to get one extra.
So one car just sort of disappears? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let them finish. Yeah, that's the trick.
Susan Anderson, 1137 Main Road. The the north exit, is that 2 lanes?
That's one lane.
So if someone wants to turn left and someone wants to turn right, they're going to be stuck behind each other?
Yeah, we're trying to go ahead and maintain this as one lane, but we don't anticipate having vehicles go into that shaded color there, but we're trying to keep it one lane. That's one of the comments that DOT had as far as exit movements. They feel like if somebody's taking a left turn, someone wants to take a right, sometimes that left turning car will get ahead of them. They're not able to see because they're being blocked by the
Right.
car on the left. So the preferable layout is to have just a one-lane exit.
Okay, so if someone wants to go left and they're waiting for the traffic that's coming south or north to go by it, and someone behind them wants to go right, they're stuck there.
They'll stay there until the left turn movement goes.
And then the queue will keep going around the building and be stuck there.
Based on the analysis and based on the volumes, the queue will not be that significant where it's going to go ahead and affect any of the traffic on the site.
Okay, how about delivery trucks? You were saying that the delivery trucks will deliver items to the store. I'm not talking about fuel deliveries, because that's a whole whole mess. I don't know. You said they're saying they get 2 per week. You're thinking they're going to get more. So I'm talking like the store deliveries.
She's asking me, I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm not testifying, she's asking a question. I'm asking.
Yeah.
I said it.
So the store deliveries, those trucks coming in, and you're saying that, they're going to come between 9 and 3. How are they, is that true? Because I have seen delivery trucks at Tom's before 9. I've seen delivery trucks at Cumberland's after 3. And so,
I believe the store manager of the store does have control in regards to what time deliveries come. And I know that they would prefer to go ahead and have the trucks come during off-peak hours.
okay, prefer is the key. The other question I have is, what type of trucks do they use? Do they use 18-wheelers, like the ones that I've seen at Cumberland Farms that stick out in the road? And do you know what type of delivery trucks that they have?
I think the majority, from what I witness, is box-type trucks.
Box-type
Small,
trucks.
yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
those
not
will be
sure how
smaller,
many-
that will go in the
Ms.
back?
Anderson, one at a time. Let him finish
Yeah.
his response, and then you can ask another
I'm
question.
not 100% certain how many tractor-trailer trucks, if any, are delivered there.
Okay, because all, like the trucks that I've seen that go to Cumberland Farms or to Walgreens, for the Pepsi trucks, they're like huge. They're not box trucks.
And this site does provide, if there is a bigger truck, this site does provide enough turning movements to be able to go ahead, get around the building and the area that's striped off in front of the dumpsters. They're able to go ahead and park there if need be. in order to
Okay,
make the
I'm
delivery.
just concerned about the trucks coming at the same time that you have cars trying to come in and get gas, or, the traffic that you're saying is going to be there. Have you factored in all those delivery trucks with
Yeah,
all
I
those
think-
different types of deliveries?
I think with the operations of the store, they will be factored in regards to trying to minimize any impacts to the customers.
Okay.
Just to remind the board, if I may, remind the board, Ms. Guglielmo testified that the trucks are usually, by far, the vast majority are box trucks, and that's why we reconfigured the back of the site to accommodate the deliveries for multiple trucks on the site at the same time. And again, we're talking about a 3,000 square foot store, so the thought was to minimize the impact of that. Ms. Guglielmo's testimony is on the record to that effect.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Hi there. My name is Whit, W-H-I-T, W-A-L-E-S, 26 Ocean View Avenue in Tiverton. Am I okay? All right.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm curious about this scenario, and that is, and maybe the red pointer could help us here. So I'm coming down during this rush hour time, 7 o'clock in the morning, and if I am wanting to take a left, there's traffic there, all right? Now, I have a friend who is up trying to exit and take a left, okay? So people are backing up behind me, and maybe there's a school bus in there, and how many cars does it take to essentially block that left-hand turn on the north side of this, and for us to just get into a whole loop where everybody's kind of waiting for everybody? And what kind of scenario is that in terms of seconds in your estimation? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I don't have a scale to know the distance there, but the amount, like I said, the delays taking the left turn in there and out of sight, I don't see this blocking the exit movement there.
You don't see like even if a school bus stops, that traffic gets backed up there all the time.
If a school bus stops, yeah, there'll certainly be traffic that's going to be.
And someone who's trying to take a left-hand turn with traffic coming up the other side there, you don't see that backing up 3 or 4 cars so that it blocks the northern entrance of someone trying to take a left-hand turn? You don't see that kind of death cycle there?
Oh, with a bus there that's going to stop and pick somebody up, it's going to stop traffic and it'll be queued. I mean, you see that all the times when buses are picking up kids in the morning or dropping off, a line of cars behind a bus because they are going ahead and waiting for the bus, and that's part of the operations. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry I threw the bus. I'm sorry I threw you under the bus there. But what I'm asking is for the person making that left-hand turn, because all that traffic is coming up on going north, right? So traffic backs up all the way up past the northern exit. You don't see that being an issue where everything gets frozen in there.
No, I see them having to wait to pull out of the site until that bus leaves and that queue goes away.
I'm doing away with the bus scenario.
Well,
here.
even any cars that are queuing, they got to make the left turn out of the site once there's a gap that allows them to go in there.
That's what. But what I'm saying is that the person making the left-hand turn, trying to get in, is causing a real blockage because there's all this traffic coming up. So there is no way for that person to really get in. Does that make sense?
If the question is, how long will it take to make a left-hand turn out of the site at peak hour?
Yeah.
Mr. Shevlin testified that. Could you talk about the expected
Yeah,
delay of making the left-hand turn out on
The amount of delay during the AM peak hour is about 35 seconds to take that left turn out. And in the afternoon peak hour, it's on an order of magnitude of 33 seconds.
But is that accounting for someone wanting to make a left-hand turn into the space? I find that hard to believe. That's all.
George, you had a question?
I have a couple of questions. So I had this and asked this question in the past, and it's something like it glossed over now, but you might need your help with this. 2 things. Queuing on Souza Road has been an issue for me. It was mentioned today again, and somehow you find it unacceptable with the traffic study or whatever. I find it unacceptable. The fact that you will allow people to go down Souza Road and queue into the coffee driveway should be not an option. 0. And I ask you, as your attorney and whoever was here before, and the marketing people, to please somehow figure a way to reconfigure that walkthrough, that corner that will not be allowed, because the people on Souza Road, which is we both know that development will sooner or later will come, they should not be allowed to use, you should not be allowed to use Souza Road as a part of extension of queuing for your driveway. I know Mary Lou doesn't have a line, but that doesn't stop you from having Dunkin' Donuts 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So you have, and if you believe that signs work, I know the statements, if you have to believe that the signs work, they don't. If you tell me you're going to put a sign in that corner telling them you cannot turn into the driveway for the coffee, and you had agreed with me, but somehow has not been addressed yet.
Well, so I think that we're conflating, maybe I'm compressing 2 different issues.
Right.
We have always anticipated there being an entrance and an exit off Souza Road. And we demonstrated that prior to moving the store further away from the residences, one could still make the turn and get into the drive-through. The second part of that was, we went back and I talked to Mr. Shevlin in preparation for tonight, and I said, we have to master how many cars queue or could queue in a reasonably queue here. And if we're creating a backup to Souza Road, we need to know that, we need to address it. So using the DOT analysis, using Mr. Shevlin's analysis, what we discovered was that the peak queuing is 5 to 6 cars at comparable sites. And that's based, as Mr. Shevlin said, both on the type of use and the square footage. Remember, there's only 300 to 400 square feet inside the building that's dedicated to this. It's not a 4,000 square foot bakery. So we really do think that even under the most robust market conditions, we're not going to get past the corner of the store here for the queuing. So somebody's going to come in, they're going to have room to turn. Now, we still have more site design to do. The last part of that answer is we're not in a design charrette for this corner right here. But we understand that there's a concern for that turn, and we're going to have to figure out, A, if it needs to be addressed at the preliminary plan stage, because it's a site design question, and secondly, if so, how to do that. Signage might be a part of the answer. Curbing might be a piece of the answer. And we haven't gotten that far in the design.
My discussion with you last time on the traffic study here, that you, by moving the building, which wasn't part of a major design, you haven't gone anywhere to ask for it, by moving the building, you literally allowed people to make an easier turn from Souza Road into that. And you had expressed last time that you will address it.
Yes, we think we address it by because it wasn't clear to me that people could make that right turn before. So they could, and they can still do it. Does it make it easier? Common sense says it makes it easier. It's wider, right? So bigger cars, et cetera. So we don't have any problem continuing to try to figure out what that does. But our safety engineers, our traffic engineers, and our site designers at the civil engineers tell us that having the complete loop around, in addition to the queuing lane, is the safest site condition, and that they don't see circumstances under this development scenario where the queuing would go out to Souza Road. They just don't see that as possible.
So, well, I would like to see some changes there, and not corner, but that's beside there. Can I just please? So the next question I have for you, you can stop me. You have said already tonight a few times that the fact that delivery will be between 9 and 3. With all due respect, again, I'm very nice of taking phones and taking pictures of your other locations. They do make a delivery when I'm going to the bank at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we all know, as you know, your delivery truck's not owned by you. It's owned by JP Noonan. So the fact is, you could tell me that every gas station gets your gas at the prime time that you like it to in the traffic. That's not true. They deliver the delivery when they could get it to you at a time they could get it to you. And the question I have for you, you keep basing your answer on the fact you delivery from 9 to 3. That's not correct.
You're right, and that's been overstated. The delivery times are during business hours. There's no off-business hour delivery. The ideal situation is I think the point was to try to get them off-peak. Mr. Shevlin's answer was off-peak, which he went to the daytime. There are some morning deliveries, and some later in the day deliveries, for sure. But Mr. Shevlin testified, and Ms. Guglielmo testified to, that's not a regular occurrence. And the standard that you're supposed to review is by adding the dispensaries, the fuel component, and the drive-through, are we significantly, materially creating a different situation than with an average market at this site? And I know the neighbors say yes, but the truth of the matter is that a smaller convenience store with 4 dispensers and a small drive-through, as Mr. Shevlin said, from a traffic standpoint tonight, and as we talked about earlier on, are equivalent to a larger market. And the reason we use the market in the liquor store is because they're the closest equivalents plural, to a market that we're proposing. We did that on purpose. So we stuck with a market type, and that's the testimony that Mr. Shevlin proposed earlier. Now, we also recognize that there are certain constraints, design constraints and restrictions on this to try to ameliorate any adverse or perceived adverse impacts, and we're happy to enter into those discussions as we've talked about.
The design of the building and the flow of the traffic, that's a planning board issue, generally. So we have our legal standards that this board has to consider for a special use permit. Those are the standards that this board will be asked to apply.
Understood.
Do you have another question?
I do, just one more. Jen Fernandez, 1049 Main Road. I just have one question. With the traffic studies that have been done and the number of years that this project has been proposed, why has there never been any actual traffic studies that are not based off statistics, but with your team actually being in a car during peak times trying to take a left during these peak hours and trying to take a right? And why is none of that done? All this is based on statistics, but nothing's based on actual.
No, our field reviews have done that. I've been down here several occasions and come to Souza Road and make the movement from Souza Road. We've had somebody come out here and do a study at the Souza Road, Main Road intersection to go ahead and determine how long the delays were, and that's what I reported to earlier tonight in my testimony.
And how long was this, what months was that, and what turns were they trying to take?
It was the delay, just the delay coming up Souza Road, heading westbound onto Main Road. So it was a combination of both left turn and right turn. We were out there over the course of the peak hours and
In
took
what months
note.
and what year?
I'd have to take a look in regards to the report exactly what it was, but I mean, it was, typical time of year.
Because if it was during COVID, that's irrelevant. If it's not during when people were actually driving on the road, if we're talking about lockdown and if the boathouse is closed and the school buses aren't running and people are not driving and they're working from home, that would be useless knowledge.
I can get those dates. I don't have them with me.
You did counts during COVID, because I don't want to forget earlier your testimony, Mr. Shepard. You did testify that you did counts in 2022.
Two. So just to clarify, so this is part of the record.
With actual people trying to take a left-hand turn, not statistics, but during 3 o'clock when elementary school bus is coming around and you're trying to take a left-hand turn.
So,
they
ma'am,
actually did that, and how many seconds was that delay?
So, ma'am, their report is a public record. It's been submitted in this case. You can look at the traffic report. It has all the dates that the study was done and all the conclusions that is there.
Yeah.
That's the information they're, applying to this board. The objectors may have their own traffic study that, if they present it, they will present it.
But when they did that study, is there a video of them doing it, or are we just taking their word?
Well, I
That
mean,
they were at the stop
right.
sign for,
So as
trying to
he-
take a
right.
left for 30 seconds?
So this is the report that they submitted. We have no evidence in the record that they weren't there. He's a professional engineer. He signed this report.
Mhm.
We don't go out and video people and say, did you really do this study? They're presenting this, it's signed, it's stamped. This is the report that they're relying on. That's all this board can determine. Of course, the objectors have the right, and they did a very thorough job of challenging some of the issues in this report, and they may have a traffic study of their own which disputes some of this stuff. We're waiting to hear that. But we don't have the right to ask them they present their case to us, and we decide that based upon what they do. And then, of course, the objectors and the neighbors have their own rights to challenge that, which has been happened tonight. So we don't go out fishing for the reports. It's their obligation to present evidence to this board that the standards that we have to apply have been met. And that's what we have to base our
Well, I'm
decision
just a
on.
little concerned, because tonight, I know for a fact, I was told 25 seconds, and then a few minutes later, it was 30-something seconds, so I'm just confused
Yeah.
on
I think your
what was
confusion is, and
actually-
again, I heard that question, there was a difference between, he was testifying as to how much it took to get out of that, the north exit there, compared to what you said your driveway was. You said it was 33 seconds from your driveway, and he
No,
said
I
it was
never,
25.
I never gave you any seconds. I said it takes well over that.
I think you
And
said
like
33, yeah.
No, I never
All right.
said any, I said it takes over that.
And we'll have the transcript.
I just, because I never seen anybody parked in my driveway trying to get out, so I don't know how the traffic study was done. And this camera is on my driveway, so.
He might not need to be parking at your driveway to figure out
Well, I
traffic
would think that
study.
they would want to know that because that's where your exit is,
I mean,
for
that's-
his facility. My driveway impacts that greatly. So, that was all.
Thank you.
You're our last question.
And it's fast, too. I'm sorry, Jamie French. I just need clarification. I'm sorry. On the, you said that it's 91 cars that would be entering in the rush hour in the mornings, and that's over a 2-hour span, right?
No, that's 1 hour.
That's a 1 hour.
The numbers I gave you were 1 hour.
So that's a 1-hour span. So we're talking about, in that case, one car entering and exiting, what, every 45 seconds?
45 seconds.
And when I try to get on the main road, I have to sometimes wait like 5 minutes to pull on the main road. And so that one car exiting every 45 seconds is, wow. And you don't think that there could be an issue with that? That the traffic actually allows for that kind of does that real traffic?
Mine or yours?
Yes, based on data that we have, yes. That's projected traffic based on data that we have.
Okay. I just find that the traffic's a little heavier than that myself, but thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much. Well, it's 10 o'clock, and I think everybody's reached the saturation point.
Madam Chair, we, in communications with the solicitor, rather than a scramble next week to pick another date, we thought we might suggest a couple of dates tonight for a special hearing in May, and which we would wrap up with our real estate expert, and hopefully we'd get through some opposition experts as well. And we had...
Yeah, they haven't seen those dates yet, Rob?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
then-
we do not have a regular meeting in May, which would be next week.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, right?
So-
Well, they haven't seen those dates.
Okay. Well, we'll work that out with the solicitors we've done in the past. I apologize. I thought we might be able to accelerate the...
It's 10 o'clock.
Yes, I understand. So
And my brain shuts off.
I'm leaving now.
Thank you.